A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Is there anybody?
There's Molly, folks. That means your friends the Goldbergs are here. Brought to you by Does, the new kind of soap for everything in your wash. First, let's drop in on the Dozen family. Well, there's Ma Dozen in the kitchen fixing dinner. Uh-oh, there's that flutterhead cousin Dozen just coming in the back door, all excited.
Would you believe it, Ma? I just met the nicest man, and I owe him all the balance.
Now, Cousin Doug, I know Doug is a wonderful new kind of soap, but how could it help you meet a man?
Well, this nice man saw me buying Does at the corner store, and he asked me why. And I said because Does does everything in the wash. Work shirts, towels, and rayons, just everything.
Yes, go on.
He smiled so sweet-like when I said Does would get his work shirts clean, too.
But did you tell him there's no hard scrubbing with Does? You know, you don't even need a bar soap anymore, because Does gets even Pa's grimiest overalls clean all by itself.
Oh, I told him that, and he started walking home with me.
He did?
Yes, he said any girl who knew how to get his towels white was a friend of his. Isn't that exciting?
Well, I hope you told him Does gets the streakiest towels white the crowd. I've never seen whiter washers.
Yes, I told him, and then he says to me, well, do you Does that pretty rayon blouse you're wearing?
Well, you told him, didn't you, that Does gives longer life to the delicate colors you wore?
Oh, yes, Ma. Oh, I felt just like a schoolgirl. I looked into his eyes and I said, oh, Does does everything. And he said, can it cook?
Oh, what did you say?
No, but I can.
Oh, that cousin Dozen. But you know, she's right about Does. It's the only leading wash day soap that combines so much safety for colors, along with so much cleaning power for the tough dirt and unsurpassed whiteness for your towels. Try Does, D-U-Z. It does everything in your wash. And now the Goldbergs. Defeated for a moment yesterday, Molly Goldberg, like a good general, marshaled her forces and turned defeat into a minor victory. You see, Molly and Uncle David were on their way to New York to see David's son-in-law, Eugene, and find out why he was going ahead with plans for a divorce from his wife. Of course, Eugene had already spoken to Molly about a separation from Florence, but now that Molly has a vague idea that the friend of the family, Eugene's secretary and Florence's aide and counselor, is helping make the divorce possible, well, Molly wants to hear a little bit about what Anne had to do with Eugene's decision. And Anne overplayed her hand. Yes, Anne called the office and pretended to discover that Eugene was away and couldn't be reached. And then Molly herself called later on and discovered that not only had Anne known all the time that Eugene was gone, but more than that, knew where he was. So, Molly has plenty to think of and plenty to say. Listen.
Marilyn, darling, Paul, come in the barn, darling, and help me take out the cows. Take the cows out to the pasture. Go, Forty, go. Take the cows. Marilyn, did you see Grandpa? If you see Grandpa, tell him that Aunt Molly's in the barn and would like to see him. Please, darling. Look, darling. Help the cows over the fence, darling. Take out the boards from the fence and let the cows go in the fence. That's right, darling. Go, Forty. Go, Forty. Help the cows in the pasture. Go. Go. Stay by me. Don't love me so much. Don't love me. I don't feel so lovable now. Yes, David? David? I want to see you a minute. See you a minute. Hello, Martha. I'll be over after, darling. Yeah. I see you had a big wash. All right, dear. I'm very busy now. I'm busy, Martha. All right, darling, why don't you come by me sometime? For already a whole month you didn't step over my threshold. All right, darling. You feeling well? That's nice, darling. That's nice. I got some neighbors yet. You believe it? Green ones yet and not red yet, not even. All right, everybody's well. Did you see Uncle David's grandchildren, Marilyn and Paul? Beautiful? Yes, David. David, dear. David? Come to bed.
Mommy.
Yes, sweetheart. Yes, David.
So come, you're going to stay in the bar?
Yes. Here we can have privacy.
What? You don't feel well, Mom?
David, I don't feel well.
So come, I'll take you to the doctor.
Not physical.
Oh, mental?
Very mental.
What do you mean, Daddy?
Come here, David. Come. They shouldn't see us.
Who can see us?
From the road passing, if we stand in the barn door. Here. Here, David. Here. Sit on the stool.
No, Molly, you sit.
I got another stool. Sit, David.
Oh, Molly, if Florence and the children are making you nervous, they'll soon be in their own house.
No, David. Florence mustn't move into that house.
Molly, once and for all, I must tell you that Eugene wants to divorce. That's why he ran away, so Florence shouldn't be able to reach him.
David, look at me. In my face, look at me directly. In my face, look at me directly. Let me talk. Let me be the verbal one. Let me talk and listen slowly to every syllable. If I'm wrong after I'm finished, then you tell me I'm wrong. But slowly listen. David, darling, an eye I didn't close, not last night. Not an eyelash, not... David, see, when I talk, look at me, David. In my face, look at me, David. David, you remember when Anne telephoned to Eugene? Answer. You can answer, huh?
Yes, sure, I remember. To make an appointment for you and me to see Eugene.
For you and for me to see Eugene in New York.
So he was out of town and nobody knew where.
That's what Anne said.
But you heard her telephone.
Even a telephone has two sides, and you have to hear both sides to know what was said.
What do you mean, Molly?
What, darling?
You
What?
said you'd give us some milk when we took the cows back.
Surely, dear.
I don't want any milk, though. But you gotta take some milk.
All right.
Here, Marilyn, come here. Come to Grandpa. Mama will see you with your hair like that, so...
Here's your hair ribbon. Look what you did to it. Well, it's not my fault. You
All right,
to put
all
it.
right.
I have to put it in your pocket.
Shut them, please. Don't fight. Don't fight.
But she starts every
All right, nobody starts. If the hair ribbon is crinkled, so I'll iron it. And Molly will take a nail and she'll wrinkle out the crinkles. All right? Please. Here. Who wants milk? I did. So drink nicely milk. Here. I want you to look nice and sweet and beautiful and fat when Papa sees you.
Aunt said we won't see Papa for a long time.
Because Papa went on a trip.
When Papa went on a trip, we always used to go. And when we didn't go, Mama used to go.
You know why Mama's not going.
Why, Paul?
Grandpa, we know.
Why do you think Mama cries all the time?
We know, Grandpa. If there's a divorce, do I keep my same name?
You only change your name when you get married. Here, darling. Here, drink, darling. Here, sweetheart, drink. Are you crying, Grandpa? Grandpa's got a cold. Drink, darling. Drink and go play. Yes, darling? Go play, sweetheart.
Can we bathe Sporty?
I'll do it. Sporty's got a cold, too. Better go in the house. You want Emily to give you an idea? Better go in the house and help Rosalie peel the potatoes, and you fix the table. Go. Yes, darling?
You can have her cook, you mean?
What'll I do? You be the waiter, Paul. You be the waiter, and you set the table. Yes,
You make the salad, Paul. The butlers always make the salad.
The butler has to make the salad.
Table if I'm going to be the butler.
You have to have a white coat. Oh, he's got to have a white coat. Go inside, darling, and tell Rosalie to give you my white sweater so you'll have like a white coat. Yes,
can I wear a white apron?
You can wear a white one and a blue one and a red one and a pink and a sky blue. Go, darling. Yes?
Okay. I'm going to paint a mustache on this.
Oh, you're like a French lady who's going to paint a mustache like a French parlez-vous.
Molly. Molly, you're right. Children should speak like that. They understood, Molly.
David, David, why am I sitting in the barn with you? Why? For you to hear me. To the finish, hear me, David. To the end. Where was I holding?
The telephone. A telephone has two sides.
2 sides.
Children should know. Children should suffer.
2 sides I was holding.
You mean Eugene didn't run away?
He did.
So that's what Anne said. Eugene ran away.
But what else did she say? You don't remember?
Well, she said...
She said nobody knows where Eugene is.
She said nobody knows where...
So what do you think I did?
What?
I also called Eugene's office.
And he was there?
No.
So?
He wasn't. But somebody knew that he left yesterday, and somebody knew where he was.
Who?
Who? Anne.
How do you know?
Because the girl in the office said so. Anne Franklin, she said, is the only one who knows where Mr. Eugene Cronin is, and she's also out of town.
You mean?
I mean, David, that something is something that we don't know. I mean that Anne is pushing Eugene and Clarence apart for a reason.
What reason?
Oh, David, that reason is the Aladdin's lamp. If we knew, then there wouldn't be a divorce, David. What? What, darling?
Molly.
What?
She won't let us cook. She won't let us do anything.
Crazy, I hate her. She wouldn't let you cook.
Let me, Molly. I'll run into the house and I'll take her out. I'll take that Anne and I'll...
David, Paul, Marilyn. David, if she's smart, we have to be smarter.
But Molly is going to learn that being smart is only the first step in a journey that is bound to lead her through an uncharted region of another human mind and heart. Look, friends, when your government asks you to turn in waste fat to make glycerin for explosives, do you say...
Oh, that's too much trouble.
Too much trouble to sell something you've been throwing away when, somewhere a young soldier may be facing an onrushing enemy? Oh, yes, he's got a machine gun in his hands. But he's saying to himself,
well, this is it. I hope my ammunition holds out.
What's too much trouble? Won't you get that ammunition to him? Now listen, when you turn in 1 pound of waste fat, that's enough to produce 150 bullets for that soldier's machine gun. Now think of that. Remember, though, the government just wants your waste fat. That means solid fats, too, meat trimmings or poultry fat. Melt them down in your oven whenever you're doing any broiling. And then pour this waste fat into a clean can. Don't use a glass container. Use any kind of tin can. And get it to your butcher quick. Now, is that too much trouble? Get your fat into the fight. Get your fat into the fight. Help keep our guns firing. Be sure to listen to the next episode of The Goldbergs, written for you by Gertrude Berg. Molly embarks on her new journey by first taking a detour. This is Clayton Collier speaking and reminding you to do as the dozens do. Let Does, the new kind of soap, do everything in your wash.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. An attractive blonde secretary is found beaten to death in a downtown office building. You've only one lead to start with. A length of steel pipe wrapped in heavy paper. There's no trace of the killer. Your job? Get him. Why are thousands and thousands of king-size cigarette smokers switching to Fatima every day?
Because in Fatima, the difference is quality.
You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended to make Fatima extra mild, to give you a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today.
You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, Fatimas cost the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, September 28th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the crime lab, and it was 11:48 p.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide. Romero? Ben? Hey, Romero?
Not here. You, Friday?
Oh, yeah. Lopey, how are you? You seen Romero around the last half hour? Supposed to meet him here.
Well, he's come and gone. Still around the building, though. Got a call.
What was it about, do you know?
Yeah, I was on that killing tonight. Call came from one of the cruiser cars checking the neighborhood down where it happened.
Yeah? Did they find something?
Picked up a guy about 3 blocks from the murder scene, acting suspicious. Men in the cruiser car figured maybe you'd want to talk to him.
They're bringing the man in now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You been over checking with the crime lab?
Yeah, there's not much. The murder weapon's about all we got so far. It's a piece of pipe with heavy manila paper wrapped around it.
Uh-huh. Latent prints do any good?
Yeah, they lifted a lot of fingerprints. They all belong to the victim. None of them are foreign.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you got a toothpick, Joe? And corn on the cob from there.
No, I haven't. Why don't you try the top drawer over there in Mike Pena's desk? He usually has some.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I understand there wasn't much to look at, the killing, I mean.
It was a pretty vicious thing. The girl took a terrible beating.
Oh. Who found the body?
One of the scrub women in the building. It was an office up on the 9th floor, import-export company. Victim was a secretary there. She's a pretty girl.
Mm-hmm. She dead long?
Must have happened around 7 o'clock tonight. That's my figure. It's just a guess.
Uh-huh. What's the girl's name? Been identified yet?
Yeah, Adele Pryor. Her boss is out of town. She was working in the office alone. There was no one suspicious seen entering or leaving the office around the time of the murder. There's no one we know of, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of checking. Yeah. Any idea what the motive could have been?
Well, it wasn't robbery. They didn't keep any cash in the office. As far as we know, the girl wasn't carrying much money. We'll start making the rounds in the morning, checking with her friends, see what we can pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Friday, you on?
Yeah, I'm right here. Back here, Ben.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi.
Lopey?
Hi. They bring the guy in, Ben?
Mm-hmm. Lopey brief you about it, Joe?
Yeah, a cruiser car picked up a suspicious-looking guy near the murder scene. Is that about the size of it?
A little more than that. They found the man beating his head against a brick wall in a back alley about 2 blocks from the office building where we found the body.
Uh-huh.
Guy'd been drinking heavily, and when they picked him up, he's pretty far gone. Kept mumbling something about how he didn't deserve to live, how he's a murderer, killer. Not too coherent.
Mm-hmm. They asked him about the dead girl, Adele Pryor?
Yeah, but the stuff he said didn't make much sense. He sobered up a little since he picked him up. We might as well see what we can get out of him before we book him in, huh? Got him in the interrogation room now.
Okay. Give it a try, anyway. Any calls come in, you know where to find us, Lopey.
Yeah, sure, right, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
Did you check with the crime lab, Joe?
Yeah, about all we're sure of is the murder weapon. No prints, no other physical evidence.
Maybe it won't matter. Got half an idea we might have the killer now.
The guy they picked up? How'd he figure?
Just a hunch. I don't think he's as drunk as he pretends.
Well, we're going to have to place him a lot closer to the murder scene than 2 blocks away. You can't prove a thing the way it stands.
I was downstairs when they brought the man in. I talked to him while they were bringing up to the interrogation room.
Yeah.
Told me he knows the dead girl.
All right.
Said he was with her an hour before she died.
Shortly before 8 o'clock that night, a scrub woman in a downtown office building near the intersection of 8th and South Grand Avenue entered an office on the 9th floor of the building to do her usual cleaning chores. Lying face down behind a desk in the small office, she found the body of 28-year-old Secretary Adele Pryor, beaten to death. When we arrived at the scene, routine investigation began, but almost immediately we found ourselves down a blind alley. Repeated questioning of all persons in or about the office building failed to turn up anything in the way of leads. Thorough investigation of the murder scene by the crime lab crew met with the same kind of luck. They knew they had the murder weapon. That was all. The deputy coroner arrived and removed the body to the morgue for posting. At 10 o'clock that night, 3 hours after the approximate time of the Pryor girl's death, officers in a cruiser car patrolling the area found a drunken man butting his head against a cement wall and muttering incoherently about a murder. He was picked up and taken immediately to the interrogation room where Ben and I questioned him. We'd talked to him a full hour before he began to make sense. He gave his name as Robert French, age 34, an unemployed electrical engineer.
While we questioned him, 2 men from Homicide were sent to check the hotel room where French told us he was staying.
I don't know. I guess I had 3 or 4 drinks at Dusty's place. Then I went down the street to the Blue Canary, had some more drinks there. I don't remember what happened after that. I wasn't feeling so good.
You say you were drinking at Dusty's place around 7 p.m., is that right, Frank?
Suppose so. I wasn't watching the clock. I guess it was around 7.
Well, did you talk to anybody while you were in the bar?
No, just the bartender. His name's Sarge. I don't know his last name. He'll tell you I was there.
What time was it when you got to Dusty's place, French?
I couldn't tell you for sure. About 6:30 maybe. Sarge could probably tell you, the bartender.
When you were coming up in the elevator, you told us you knew Adele Pryor.
Yeah, I knew her. Used to work for her husband. Her ex-husband, I mean. They've been divorced 7, 8 years now.
Mm-hmm. You said you saw Adele Pryor in her office late this afternoon, French. What was the reason for the visit?
I borrowed a couple of dollars from her. She was always pretty good that way. Nice kid. Don't know why anybody'd want to kill her like that.
Well, how about the show that you were putting on out in the street tonight, French? Beating your head against that wall? What was that all about?
Drunk. Really drunk. Felt so low I wanted to kill myself. Just lay down and die.
Well, how's that? You remorseful? Felt sorry for something you'd done?
I don't know. I don't think of any special reason for it when I get that way. I just keep thinking I want to die.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't got the nerve for it, though. I know that. Like my old man always used to tell me, I haven't got the nerve to do anything right. Just wasn't born that way. I guess that's it.
Do you use narcotics, French?
No, I haven't even got the nerve for that. Booze, that's all. It's good enough for me. Say, you think we could go out for a cup of coffee? Maybe I could use it.
We'll have some brought up, huh? Ben, do you mind going down the hall and check with Lopey? Ask him to have some coffee brought up, huh?
Yeah, okay.
And see if those 2 men have checked back in yet, will you?
Right.
Appreciate it, Sergeant. Sure gonna be mean when all this booze wears off.
I'd like to ask you a little more about the Pryor girl, French. Just how well did you know her?
Not too well. Guess I used to see her maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm. Up there at her office?
Yeah, that's right. She was a nice girl. Whenever I was broke, I could always depend on her for a couple of bucks. I liked her. She was a nice person.
Did you ever go out with her?
No, never did. No romance stuff. I didn't like her that way. She was just a good person. We got along okay.
Mm-hmm. You want a cigarette?
No, thanks. Mm-hmm. Mouth's full of cotton already.
Mm-hmm. How about this business of Adele Pryor lending you money? Does she think quite a bit of you?
Well, I did her a couple of favors once. When I was working for her husband, she was still married to him. She was going out with a guy she liked on the side. She was out with this guy once, and I saw them together. She asked me not to say anything, so I didn't. Before she got a divorce, I used to cover up for her all the time. She never forgot it, I guess.
Uh-huh. How about when you saw her in her office tonight, French? How'd she seem? All right to you?
Yeah, same as ever. I asked her if she could lend me a $5, and she did. I left. It was about 6:15, I guess.
There anyone else in the office when you left?
Yeah. There was a guy waiting in a little reception room there. Didn't know who he was.
You remember what he looked like?
Well, tall fella, about my size, my age.
Uh-huh.
Joe, can I see you a minute?
Yeah.
Dorothy and Brian have checked in. They just got back from going over French's hotel room.
They find anything?
White shirt, a pair of brown shoes, pair of dark trousers.
What about them?
Bloodstains on all of them.
The stained pieces of clothing found in the suspect's hotel room were delivered to Lieutenant Lee Jones at the crime lab for detailed examination. Coffee was brought in, and Ben and I continued to question French until about 4 a.m. He denied any knowledge or complicity in the killing of 28-year-old Adele Pryor. He told us the blood-stained clothing in his hotel room was the result of an accident he'd been in 2 weeks before when he'd been drinking heavily. He was checked through R&I while we talked to him, but he had no previous criminal record. French kept insisting that we check on the tall, dark-haired man who'd been waiting in the reception room of the Pryor girl's office the night before when French left her. We gave the description of the suspect, along with the M.O., to the stats office, requesting them to furnish us with any information regarding any assaults or any solved or unsolved murder. At 4:15 a.m., we booked in Robert French at the main jail on suspicion of 187 PC, murder. The next morning at 10 a.m., the legwork began. Lopez and Doherty from Homicide started checking on the background and alibi of the suspect, Robert French. It didn't hold much water. None of the people at either of the bars where French said he'd been drinking at the time of the murder could definitely vouch for his presence, but they all volunteered the information that no matter how much he drank, French was never violent toward other people, only himself. Lopez and Doherty continued investigating the suspect while Ben and I checked on the background of the victim, Adele Pryor. At 8:25 p.m., we got back to the office.
Hi. Been waiting for you two.
Hoping. You and Doherty do any good?
Nothing to celebrate over. Long day, tired feet.
What'd you find out, Lopey? Anything new at all?
Oh, maybe French is our man. Can't prove it by me. Every place we checked, everybody we talked to, same answer.
Yeah?
He's a smart guy with a good education. He's on the bottle and he's out of work. Everybody seems to like him. He gets drunk, but he never bothers anybody. That's about the worst anybody can say about him. Drinks too much.
Well, how about his being friends with the dead girl? Did you dig up anything there?
Yeah, it only proves he was telling you the truth, though. As far as we could find out, there was nothing going between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Everything
we got only verifies what he told you. He had no interest in the girl except a bar offer when he was broke.
You got in touch with the girl's ex-husband, did you?
Yeah, he couldn't add anything. All clear there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, by the way, here, Lee Jones called from the crime lab just before you came in.
What did he have, Lopey?
Finished testing the blood stains on those clothes they found in French's hotel room. None of the stains on them match the victim's blood type. It's another dead end.
Yeah, it's sure hard to figure. You got anything else, Lopey?
Oh, yeah.
You got me stuff.
A report for you from the stats office.
Oh, thank you.
He asked to make a run for you last night, didn't
Yeah, I did.
What's it look like?
Just a minute. Yeah, well, it doesn't help much. Looks like more legwork.
What's that, Joe?
Well, French told us when he left Adele Pryor last night there was a man in the reception room waiting to see her. He gave us the guy's description, and the stats office made a run on it for us. This is the best one they got.
Yeah?
The guy's name is William Tanner, WMA, 33 years old, 6'1", 195 pounds, dark hair, dark complexion.
Fits the description French gave us of the guy.
The rest of it's a lot closer to home.
How do you mean?
William Tanner was a prominent suspect in the Donaldson murder last September. Testimony of friends and relatives subsequently cleared him. Donaldson's murder is still unsolved.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the point?
Well, the same thing that killed Donaldson killed Adele Pryor.
What do you mean?
Piece of steel pipe wrapped in paper. To the working detective assigned to examine a criminal case, the element of coincidence, when it occurs, generally serves to complicate any investigation. Toward the solution of the crime, coincidence may mean a lot or it may mean nothing. In any event, it can't be dismissed. This time we had two examples of coincidence to deal with. A girl had been beaten to death in an office building. Within 2 blocks of the murder scene, we found a man fairly well acquainted with the victim who admitted seeing the girl within an hour of her death. Primary investigation uncovered some facts which tended to incriminate the man, some facts which tended to prove him innocent. Was his presence in the immediate neighborhood of the killing only coincidental, or was he there at the particular time for the purpose of murder? We didn't know. By the same token, a man by the name of William Tanner was suspected 1 year before of beating an elderly woman to death with an identical murder weapon, a length of steel pipe wrapped in paper. This same person, William Tanner, matched the description of a man reportedly seen entering Adele Pryor's office shortly before she was murdered. Tanner also had a criminal record of 1 conviction for assault. Maybe it was a lead, maybe it was nothing. It had to be checked out. We showed Tanner's mugshot to our first murder suspect, Robert French, but he failed to identify it. We went to William Tanner's last known address, but he'd moved. We checked with his next of kin, his brother, Martin Tanner. He was with the city fire department. We found him on duty at the neighborhood fire station on Norwich Avenue.
No, I'm afraid not, Sergeant. I haven't seen my brother Bill in 3 weeks now. If he's not at his apartment, I couldn't tell you where to find him.
We tried the last address we had on him. He wasn't there. 8625 Norman Road?
Oh, no. He moved out of there 6-7 months ago. I got his new address in my locker. I can give it to you if you want.
We'd appreciate it, yeah.
Okay, back this way and then upstairs.
All right.
What's it about, Sergeant? My brother in some kind of trouble again, I guess, huh?
Oh, it's just a routine check.
You sound like you almost expect your brother to be in trouble, Tanner.
To tell you the truth, I guess I do. I don't know what... Excuse me a minute. No, it's not our call.
Well, how would you mean that, Tanner? What's happened to your brother?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Bill and I used to live together with our mother. Ma died about 2 years ago. I don't think Bill ever really got over it. He was a lot closer to Ma than I was.
I see.
After she died, he drank quite a bit for a while, then he tried women, lots of them. After that, he turned to religion. We thought that'd help. He would have, too. Except that he's an odd guy. He even finds ways of distorting the Bible. I guess he's still pretty religious. He goes to all the revivals, the tent meetings, all that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Do you know any of his women friends?
Yeah, I do. 2 or 3 of them.
How about the name Adele Pryor? Does that mean anything to you?
Would she be kind of a pretty girl, blonde hair, nice clothes?
Yeah, that's right.
Have you met her, Tanner?
Yeah, Bill had me meet her once. He seemed to like her quite a bit. Why?
Was he pretty serious about her, or would you know that?
Yeah, he was serious about her, all right. He told me that. I don't think it worked both ways, though. Looked to me like she was playing the field. Bill took it way too serious.
How do you mean?
Well, they went together steady for a while, and then they broke it up. She did, I mean.
Mm-hmm. How'd your brother take that?
Not so good. I remember the night about a month ago. Never saw Bill like that before. Real bad shape. Wasn't drinking either.
Is that so?
Never saw Bill like that in my life.
Like what, Tanner?
Off his head. He could have gone out and killed the girl.
Before we left the fire station, we got William Tanner's new address from his brother, Martin. It was the same address as that of the murdered girl, Adele Pryor, an apartment house close by the intersection of Wilshire and La Brea. Tanner's apartment was on the 3rd floor, just down the hall from the Pryor girl's apartment. But Tanner wasn't there. The apartment manager told us he'd moved out the night before without leaving a forwarding address. Ben put in a call to the suspect's place of business, an industrial chemical company, where Tanner was employed as assistant office manager.
What was the reason, sir? Oh, I see, Yeah, well, all right, thanks very much. We'll be checking with you later. Bye.
What'd they say?
Tanner left yesterday, quit without giving any notice. Told him he had a better job lined up.
Where?
South America.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. If you smoke king-size cigarettes, listen to Fatima's amazing new offer.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy their extra mildness and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you don't like Fatimas better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, return the pack with the unused Fatimas and we'll give you your money back, plus postage.
We make this amazing offer because we believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes.
Smokers all over the country are confirming this every day.
Here is the latest state-by-state report.
State 1, Fatima sales up 72%. 2, sales up 54%. 3, sales up 107%. 4, sales up 192%. And those are just a few.
Remember, if you're not convinced Fatima is better than your present king-size cigarette, just return the pack with the unsmoked Fatimas before December 1st and get your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1. Buy Fatimas, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Saturday, October 1st, 8 a.m. We got out a broadcast and an APB on murder suspect William Tanner. We checked with the local U.S. State Department office, but they had no record of granting a passport recently to a William Tanner to travel in a South American country. We talked to the various consulates in the city representing South American nations, but none of them had issued a visa to a William Tanner recently or anyone answering his description. Together with Brian and Lopez from Homicide, Ben and I continued the search for the missing suspect. The deeper we checked into his background, the more we became convinced that mentally, Tanner was far from normal. Most of the people who knew the suspect told us the same story his brother had given us. In recent months, Tanner had taken strongly to religion. He attended revival meetings and similar religious exercises every night in the week. He talked nothing but repentance. He quoted the scriptures constantly. He adopted the habit of carrying a Bible with him wherever he went, reading from it aloud every chance he got. He kept urging his friends to join him in being saved. On Monday, October 3rd, we began a check of the various revival halls. On Wednesday, October 5th, we found him. He was attending a gospel revival in a meeting hall in the south end of the city. He told us he had a room in a small hotel directly above the meeting hall, but he seemed reluctant to take us up there. While Lopez and Brian got a pass key from the manager and went up to check the room, Ben and I questioned Tanner downstairs in the lobby of the meeting hall.
I'm sorry to hear about Adele. What happened to her? It's a terrible thing, isn't it?
Yes, sir. We understand you knew Adele Pryor fairly well, Mr. Tanner. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I liked her quite a bit at one time. We used to see a lot of each other. I was engaged to her, you know.
Well, how is it you never married, Tanner? Did she break off the engagement?
No, I was lucky. I found out in time. I broke off with her.
Well, how do you mean you found out in time? What'd you find out?
I found the truth, Sergeant, the everlasting word. But know this and understand, that no unclean person or covetous one has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. For these have given themselves up in despair to sensuality, greedily practicing every kind of uncleanness. Do not then become partakers with them. That's the everlasting word, Sergeant, the Holy Book.
Yes, sir. I'm not quite sure I follow you.
Open your eyes and ears to the everlasting word, and you will know and understand all things. It's very simple, officer. I don't want to say anything uncharitable about her. Adele wasn't for me. I'm glad I found out in time, that's all.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time you saw her, Tanner? Do you remember?
No, I don't. Not exactly. I think I saw her a week or so before it happened, before they found her dead.
Where was that you saw her?
How's that?
I say, where was it the last time you saw her?
On the street. It was downtown somewhere. I passed her on the street.
You used to live in the same apartment house she did, isn't that right? Just down the hall from her?
Yes, sir, I did. Why?
And for a full week, you didn't happen to see the Pryor girl around the apartment building at all?
No, that's right. When I broke off with Adele, that was it. I had no reason to see her anymore.
Well, it's not too clear, Tanner. It doesn't jibe with what we've been told about you and the Pryor girl.
Well, the lies, of course. I suppose you know that. Adele was a beautiful girl, very beautiful. A lot of men she knew were jealous of her.
Well, the way we understand it, Tanner, you never did break off with Miss Pryor. You were going around with her, and you were seen with her right up to the day of her death.
Well, that's certainly a lie, and I can prove that. As soon as I found out about Adele, that was weeks before she was killed, as soon as I found out, that was the end. I broke off with her right away.
I'd like to know what you're referring to, Tanner. You found out what?
Adele, she was one of those.
Huh?
I'm sorry, she was. The sinner. I almost went out of my mind when I found out. She knew it was wrong. She must have known. It was right there in the book for anybody to read. Do not let sin reign in your mortal body so that you obey its lusts.
Now, look, Tanner, what are you trying to tell us?
It was terrible. She sinned all the time. She committed terrible sins. Will you come into this side room over here? I can tell you all about her. I'd just as soon not talk about it here.
Sure, go ahead.
In here.
Just one question before you get started, Tanner.
Yes?
Did you ever visit Adele Pryor at her place of business downtown at her office?
No, I never did. Why?
Did you visit Adele Pryor at her office the day she was killed?
The Lord is my witness, Sergeant. I have nothing to fear. Why should you ask me that question?
Well, we have a report that you were seen going into the office less than an hour before the Pryor girl was murdered. I'd like to have you clarify that for us, if you would.
Certainly. It's a lie.
You're sure you weren't in that office with her just before she died?
Well, let me tell you about her sins. There was never anything as evil as this, Sergeant.
Is that right?
Yes, it was a terrible shock. I liked Adele. I think I loved her. We'd been going out for 2 months. Sometimes I'd take her here so that she could learn about the everlasting word, so that she could know about the terrible sins some people commit. Oh, drinking and parties and carryings on. Things no one should do, especially girls like Adele. Beautiful girl.
How can you be sure she was doing anything wrong, Tanner? Do you have any real proof of that?
Everything, Sergeant, I knew. Just knowing that she was sinning against the Lord.
Did you know any of the other men she went out with?
They were sinful, I knew that. They only liked Adele because she was beautiful.
Did you know any of the men, Tanner? Did you know for a fact that there was anything wrong?
I knew everything, Sergeant. She was a beautiful girl, and I thought she was a woman of the Lord, and I wanted her for my wife. But she gave in to sin.
Now, I guess that's her business, Tanner, how she lived. We're trying to find out how she died.
Well, just let me tell you about it. I'd lie there in the dark in my room upstairs, and I'd wait to hear her come in down the hall. It was always late. 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning I'd hear her come in.
You still haven't told us, Tanner. What about the men she went out with, this Pryor girl?
Slaves of the devil, every one of them. I thought I'd go out of my mind.
All right, now, come on. You want to tell us, mister? How about it? Is that what made you do it?
No, wait a minute. You don't want to wait to listen. You say made me do it. Made me do what?
I think you know what we mean, Tanner. You want to tell us now?
It's a terrible thing. All this sin around us. It's a grave thing. The whole world. There is not one just man. There is none who understands. There's none who seeks after God. There is none who does good. No, not even one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have dealt deceitfully. The venom of asps is beneath their lips. Their mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the path of peace they have not known. There's no fear of God before their eyes. No fear of God.
Yes, sir. We'd still like an answer to our question. Maybe we could talk a little better downtown.
The wisdom and the knowledge is here and now. I knew Adele and her terrible sins. They had to be paid for. Adele had to pay for every one of them.
You want to get to the point, mister. Now, what is it? What are you trying to tell us?
The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the charity of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Amen. So she sinned and so she died.
Yeah.
In the name of God and in the name of our Lord. Amen. I killed her.
William Harold Tanner was brought downtown immediately, where he volunteered a complete statement admitting full guilt for the murder of Adele Pryor. Blood-stained clothing found in his room corroborated his story. It was obvious that the man was mentally unbalanced. He gave us the details of how he murdered Adele Pryor because she spurned his attentions. We began questioning him about the Donaldson murder, which had taken place more than a year before and which was still unsolved. The victim, 64-year-old Louise Donaldson, had met death in the same manner as Adele Pryor.
No, I didn't know the old lady, but she had money. I'd been told that. I was broke and I needed the cash, so I thought it'd be a good thing.
This was in September, a year ago, that you murdered her.
Yes, sir, September, all right. She was all alone. She didn't have anybody. She was sick. I probably did her a favor.
Your package here says that you figured in the investigation on the plot to blow up the Rexmore Hotel about 3 years ago, homemade bomb planted in the basement of the hotel?
Yes, that was mine 3 years ago in September. You never could have traced it. Too bad the bomb didn't go off. I hated those hotel people.
Is that right? What was the matter?
I worked at that hotel once, you know. Worked hard, too. One Saturday, they held up my paycheck. I didn't get it till next Tuesday. Never forgot that. September.
September. Now, what's that got to do with it?
I don't know, really. September's always been the time, that's all. I work into some kind of trouble. Last 4 years, every September. I don't know what it is. Seems to be the best time to get rid of them. Yeah, September. It's always September.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to kill Adele. There wasn't anything else I could do. She was a sinner.
Yeah.
Drinking, running around. She committed sins all the time. Worst kind of sins. Terrible.
Let me tell you, maybe you better check the book, Tanner. You're way ahead of her.
What do you mean?
What kind of sin's worse than murder?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 10th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, I'd like to remind you once again of Fatima's new offer. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy their extra mildness. See if you don't like Fatimas better than the king-size cigarettes you're now smoking. If you don't, just return the pack with the unsmoked Fatimas and we'll see to it that you get your money back, plus postage. Fair enough? Remember, more and more smokers all over the country are switching to Fatima. I'm convinced you will, too, because I sincerely believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. Buy Fatima.
Further investigation proved beyond a doubt that William Tanner, besides murdering Adele Pryor, had also taken the life of 64-year-old Louise Donaldson the year before, and that he was responsible for the attempted bombing of the Rexmore Hotel the year before that. After examination by 3 psychiatrists appointed by the state, the suspect was found to be sane at the time of the murders. Tanner was convicted of first-degree murder and received the death penalty. He was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the state penitentiary, San Quentin, California. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
Regan, Investigator.
Mr. Regan? Huh? You are Mr. Regan, the detective?
Yeah.
Please, Mr. Regan, I need your help. Could you help me?
I'm afraid I didn't get the name.
I am Romano. Elio Romano.
Well, sit down, Mr. Romano.
Thank you.
Suppose you tell me about your problem. You're needing help, Mr. Romano.
Oh, yes, Mr. Regan, it's true. I do need help. My store, it's my store.
Store.
I have a smaller grocery store. It's on 6th Street. We have a big new neon sign. But someone is trying to destroy my store.
Now we're making headway. Tell me about the someone.
I don't know this is someone. If I should get my hands on them...
windows?
No. They tried to burn it down. They tried to burn my store.
When?
Last week, Thursday.
Call the police?
Yes.
And then what?
Well, they said there was accident. They said I did this to my own store. Ma questa è una cosa che... Oh, mamma mia.
And you're sure it was no accident?
Mr. Regan, would I destroy the one thing Maria and I have given our lives to make? Would I so much as harm a single little glass window? No, I would not.
Where'd the fire start?
In the back room where the can got stored.
What time of day?
Night. It was at night. My Maria and I, we sleep above the store. My Maria smelled the smoke, and together we put out the fire before the damage could become great.
Mm-hmm. That's the only time it happened?
No. The day before that, I found a light match in the waste basket. It was just as I was closing for the night. Well, I stopped this one very quick.
2 nights in a row. You're right, Romano. It doesn't look very accidental.
Oh, believe me, Mr. Regan, I would never do this to my store. Never, never.
Okay, Romano. I believe you. Suppose you and I run out there. Take a look. The little man with the wrinkled brow got in the car beside me, and we drove out 6th Street, past Alvarado, past Union. We passed in front of a small grocery store with a big neon sign over the door. Sign said very proudly, Romano's. And my client, Romano, glanced at it, nodded approvingly, and we walked in.
Oh, Annie, are you back to save me?
That foolish woman. Of course I'm back to save you.
And this is Mr. Regan, the detective.
See. Mr. Regan, my wife, Maria. You're a very foolish woman.
Hey, George, why said you mad?
How do you do, Miss Romano?
The pig of a husband. If you worry about him and his first source, you call him foolish. If you do not worry about him, this way you don't care.
Mr. Regan, please, come with me. Right away, I'll show you where the fire starts. Please, come with me.
Romano led me into a small back room behind the counter. There were shelves filled with canned goods and paper cartons. He showed me the waste paper basket near the door. Easy to flash a match in through the window above it that opened onto the alley. There were a few charred pieces of wood here and there, but very little damage had been done. Still, if everything Romano said was true, it didn't look like an accident. It was while he was pointing out that he burnt word that a customer came in the front door. I moved over toward the doorway and listened.
Well, we'll see about that when I tell my neighbors.
It was then that things began to get interesting. I looked out. Plump, smug-looking woman, carrying a heavy purse, her eyes glaring behind rimless glasses.
That's your idea, eh? Support as many people in here as you can? Well, there certainly must be some law against people like you. I just wanted to make sure, that's all. And I must say I got what I came for.
What was that all about, Mrs. Romano?
Oh, Mr. Regan, you heard.
Maria, what does she say to you?
Quiet, Romano.
Mr. Regan is right, Elio. It was enough.
It didn't sound like nothing, Mrs. Romano. What do you mean by telling my neighbors?
No, we will not talk of it.
We will talk of it. Mr. Regan, this woman, this is Mrs. Wilson, she used to be our best customer. Then she turned on us. She tells all her friends not to come to our store.
Why?
Why? Because now, who knows why?
Oh, you have started it. Now you will finish, Elio. She does not buy from us because we would not let her tell us how to run our store.
See, that's all there is to it? When did it start?
A week ago.
Oh? Same time the fire started.
See, the same... But, Mr. Regan, you don't...
You had to think, Romano. I'll see you later.
Mr. Regan, where you go?
To talk to Mrs. Wilson. If I moved fast, I could find Mrs. Wilson. If I could find her, I could talk to her. She had answers, plenty of them. Plenty more than the Romanos gave her credit for. And then I saw her, a block away, walking fast. I followed. Around the corner, she turned up the walk and disappeared into a 2-story apartment house. I was right behind her. The mailbox out front said 208, and when I got there, the door was just closed. Now.
Yes?
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Young man, if you're selling
I'm not
something...
selling anything.
Then what do you want?
Just a couple of questions, Mrs. Wilson, about the Romanos.
Oh, so that's your game, is it? You're trying
I'm not
to tell
trying to
me...
tell you anything. We'd just better talk now. For your own good.
You go back and tell those people we don't want them around here. We don't want them in our neighborhood. Is that clear?
That's as good a place to start as any, and I will just...
Oh, no, you don't. You're not coming in without a warrant. I knew you were a policeman right away. They called you, those Romanos. Just like them to take advantage of our Constitution. But I know my rights as a citizen.
Lady,
I haven't broken any laws, you understand? It's them that cause all the trouble, them. And we don't want their kind around here. Now, good day.
So I had nothing after all. I got in my car and drove down toward police headquarters. And it wasn't that easy. Because behind me, starting at Alvarado, was a yellow Model A Ford. A yellow hot rod, and it wasn't behind me by accident. Stayed there 2 blocks, 10 blocks, 20. And whoever sat behind the wheel didn't care if I knew it. We stayed that way until we reached the block without traffic, and then suddenly the yellow car gunned up in the rearview mirror. And I could see a young kid hunched angrily over the steering wheel, and there wasn't any doubt about what a kid like that had on his mind or what he was going to do. He moved the car up close, next to mine, and yelled something angry kid's yell, and suddenly his yellow coupe shot out ahead, cut into me. Like I figured. Tried to run me off the street onto the sidewalk. And now the yellow coupe was just a blur in the distance. I pulled off from the curb, eased into gear, took my time driving to the police station. The police told me to check with the arson squad. The arson squad told me to check with the sergeant. And to make a rotten day just that much rottener, the sergeant turned out to be a guy I knew, named Bowles.
All right, what do you want, Regan?
Canceled some homicide, Bowles?
I don't need any of your lip today, Regan. I'm busy. What do you want?
You handle the Romano investigation?
Romano? Who's that?
It's the poor guy who happens to own a grocery store.
Romano. Yeah, I checked it out last week. For your information, this client of yours, Romano, has his grocery store well covered. You know what they call it, Regan? Fire insurance. Lots of fire insurance.
And that's what I got from Sergeant Bowles. I left the station, drove down to the top house on 3rd Street, had myself a big dinner, and tried to think. It wasn't that easy. Ideas would fit together during the salad and go to pieces during the steak. By the time I got to dessert, it was anybody's guess. I paid the blonde waitress and drove out 6th Street, watching the streetlights go on and hoping one of them would shed some light on the problem. But when I got past Alvarado, I didn't have time to think. I stepped on the gas, drove faster. Then the street becoming crowded, alive, into confusion and fire engines, into shouts and smoke. A man in a fire helmet directed me over to the side of the road, and I parked and got out, walked into the excitement and confusion and heat, and into a sweaty, curious, open-collared, open-mouthed, hot-eyed, staring mob, into a shout all around me. Hey, Joe. Hey, Edna. Hey, Pete. Come take a look. Romano's, the grocery store. Burning down, yelling, cheering, shouting, while flames licked up the store walls and around the big new neon sign Romano had proudly shown me. And I was moving into the mob, trying to get closer, when a big burly man covered with soot and sweat shoved me aside.
Stand back, will you please, mister?
Have you seen the owner?
Too many people to see anything, mister. Out of my way.
The big fireman moved on, and I followed him, letting him clear a path through the spectators, and up ahead I could see another big man. This one I knew.
Stand back there. Oh, Regan.
Sam, have you seen Romano, the owner?
What's he look like?
A little guy. Dark hair.
Stop and go, Regan. I haven't seen anybody. Better stand back. That wall's going.
Romano and his wife live in there.
Sorry, Regan. Too many people. My men can't get a quick.
Never mind.
Regan, come back there.
Five people ran shouts aloft in the crowd behind me as I moved and shoved and pushed my way around to the side of the burning grocery store. Somewhere in there was my client, Romano, and his wife, Maria. And then, stumbling out through the smoke, came a fireman. And he was dragging a man, a little man, coughing, spitting, breathing. It was Romano.
It's the man you were looking for, mister. Maria, let me go, please. Let me go.
Romano, it's me, Regan.
Let me go in the name of God. Please let me go, Maria. I must have got to my Maria.
You take him, mister. I'll go back for her. Right, I got him.
Regan. Mr. Regan. Where is she? They left to my Maria.
Take it easy, Romano. They'll get Maria.
They must have saved her. I'm going to get to Maria. I'm going to get...
I pulled the little man away from the smoke and heat and people, stretched him out on the pavement. In a few minutes, his breathing became regular and the coughing stopped, and he slept. And 10 minutes after that, the big fireman came out with Maria and placed her on the pavement beside her husband. And Maria wasn't coughing or breathing. She was dead. The ambulance took Maria and Romano away. The fire hissed steam where the fireman's hoses poured gallons of water. And soon even the crowd had lost interest. And only the hissing steam and smoke filled the cavity that had been Romano's grocery store. Fire Chief Rand came over to me.
Did you find him, Regan, that man you were looking for?
Yeah, Rand. I found him.
He okay?
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be all right. Not his wife.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Regan. We did the best we could.
I know. And what started it?
I was just checking. So far, nothing conclusive.
You think it was an accident?
No. Went too fast. This one was planned, Regan.
By a maniac.
I'm not too sure. The next usually stick around. Watch it. They get their kicks that way.
Check the crowd?
We always check the crowd. Nothing certain yet.
Okay, thanks.
Regan, when you see Romano, tell him we did our best.
I left around examining the charred scraps of what was left of Romano's grocery store. I walked down the street thinking, putting the twos with other twos and trying to make fours. And then I saw something up ahead, and I forgot about the twos and fours. There was a yellow Model A Ford parked 3 blocks from the scene of the fire, sitting quiet, docile, far from the nearest streetlight. I got to it and started to look in. It was the car that had tried to run me off the street. It was...
Say that, mister?
I turned. Saw a kid. Big kid who'd driven the car into me. In his right hand, a revolver.
Come on, get away from it.
You like guns.
I get me things. Come on.
You also like matches.
Shut up.
You also like killing people.
Right.
He thinks that I said killing, and I drove across the sidewalk at his knees, and we went down together, rolling on the pavement, digging for the gun. And it was anybody's weapon until I felt the cold steel of a second between us. Saw the barrel moving up under my chin. Heard the report. Kid was gone. I was holding a sticky, damp spot above my left ear, and when I pulled my hand away, it too was sticky and damp. I got up, rocked unsteadily on my feet, stumbled down to my car. I reached for the ignition, pushed the starter, and decided to wait. Voices and faces, and voices and lights, and a big blank wall was there. I waited, not being sure, and then I opened my eyes, and the blank wall was the ceiling, and the face was Sergeant Bull. Who said it was just a scratch? Lay down. What's going on around here? Said lay down. You want to hurt something or something? Bullshit. You must stink. Where are we? Georgia Street receiving. Huh? Only why Rand had bought Rand is dropping here? He found you in your car. You were out. Way out. Romano. Is he okay? Yeah, he's okay. His wife, Mary. Does Romano know? Yeah, he knows. Bull. Yeah? You still figure Romano burned his own store down? Shut up. Besides, suppose you answer a couple of questions. Okay. Just ask me. Bull got me. I told him. And he folded his notebook and he walked out. I got up, checked my legs and the bandage over my left ear, danced down the hospital corridor, and walked out. 30 minutes later, the cab let me off where I'd last seen that yellow coupe, and I began to check garages. And the first one I checked was behind the apartment building where Mrs. Wilson lived. And I got nothing. 30 minutes after that, I'd covered her side of the block and was on the last apartment across the street. 4 garages, side by side. First, Chevy. Second, Dodge. Third, Ford. Not a new one. It was a coupe like the yellow one I was looking for, only this was black. Shiny black. Shiny black. That was real something. I moved into the back garage and looked close at that Model A and reached out and touched the shininess and brought my finger back fast. Sticky. Wet. Nearly painted. What are you doing back here? Short, fat with a flashlight beam in my eyes. Come on, speak up. What's your business? Turn off your light. Not a chance, mister. I'm on you. I said turn it off. Hey. Whose car is this? None of your business. I said whose car? This is my property, mister. You... It ain't my place to give out information on my tenant. Oh, you want to live in your apartment? Well, Does he? Well, I rent that garage, mister. $5 a month. But the guy who owns the car doesn't live here? It ain't no guy, mister. Woman pays the bill. A woman? A plump woman wears rimless glasses. Yeah. Her name's Wilson. Mrs. Wilson. Hey, that's... Thanks. Hey, you ain't got no right to ask me questions. I moved around the building, across the street, double time.
double time up the stairs. Up to the place I'd been earlier in the afternoon. It was late now, very late. But whether she liked it or not, Mrs. Wilson was getting our caller. I leaned on the buzzer, stayed on it. And midnight or not, Mrs. Wilson was going to answer if it took me home.
What's the meaning of this? The very idea. Oh, it's you. Well, see here.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
I won't have with you. I'm calling the manager. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
You policemen have no right to disturb peace-loving families.
I'm not the police, Mrs. Wilson.
You're not the police? Well, Investigator.
Not this time.
I might help you here. Get out of
Shut
it.
up.
What do you want?
Your son. If he is your son.
Crazy. My son is out of town.
Really?
He's been gone since yesterday. He's visiting his aunt.
That's right.
He left on the train for Santa Barbara. That's where my sister lives. Tommy left yesterday morning.
Tell me about Tommy.
He's a good boy. There's nothing he's done wrong. What right have
What have you got coming up for murder?
Murder?
Sure, murder, Mrs. Wilson. When your kid set fire to Romano's store, somebody was killed. The law can call that manslaughter, Mrs. Wilson, but you and I know it's murder.
You're lying. You're making
Why, Mrs. Wilson? That's all I want to know. Why? Why did you knowingly let your kid set fire to that store? What kind of a distorted brain?
You shut up. What those people got, they deserve. We don't want their kind in this neighborhood. We've got our rights.
Who's we?
Citizens. Real American citizens.
Oh, Romano's not, is that it?
There's no place
I
else.
think I'll just look around, Mrs. Wilson.
Where are you going?
Look around. Something brought this business to a boil.
You get out of there!
Oh, I wasn't going in. But since you made a point of it.
You get out of here.
Now, why would you care if I looked in your kitchen, Mrs. Wilson? Interesting. There, Regan.
You've got no right to come in here and...
Sugar, soap, lots of it. Let's see. Yeah. There are about 2 dozen cans of coffee, a couple of cases of soap, and there's the sugar there.
I paid for it. It's my right to buy what I want. Romano can't tell me what I'm supposed to...
Romano tried to tell you how much he could buy.
No dirty, filthy foreigner's going to tell me what I...
That's right. You're an American. A real patriotic American.
Right.
The Constitution says you've got a right to buy as much as you want any time you want. You've got your rights. Yeah, remember, you're telling me that.
So I'll thank you to keep your nose out of my...
Your kind belongs behind bars, Mrs. Wilson. What? Your kind can't eat off the same table with Romano's. Your kind belongs out back in a pig pen, where you can wallow in your soap and coffee and sugar and grease. Get back with the pigs, Mrs. Wilson. Somebody left a loophole in the Constitution.
Stand right where you are, mister.
Well, that makes it complete.
Oh, Tommy. Oh, my Tommy.
I thought I stopped you once, mister.
He said such horrible things, Tommy. He said such terrible things.
I won't be saying much when I get through with him. When you get through with what? Haven't you killed enough for one night? Killed? Mrs. Romano's dead. Dead from the smokes and flames and hate your mother cooked up.
Oh, no. I wasn't going to kill her.
Oh, just a little fire. Burn them out of the neighborhood. Your mother's idea.
Tommy, don't let him talk to me.
Sure, they always start that way. Just a little hate. But it builds, doesn't it, kid? Starts with a fist, ends up with guns, lots of them.
Tommy, I didn't...
Go on, shoot, kid. Make the neighborhood safe for Americans. Your mother's kind of American. Kind of breeds hate and greed and gets start doing it.
Tommy, you can stop.
Shoot, kid. That proves she's right, that you can kill because you're special, like she is. Give me that gun. Gun? Gun. Thanks. There must be something in the Constitution that fits you, Mrs. Wilson. And do what? Murder, arson, whatever you want to call the crimes of Mrs. Wilson. You might say she was fighting for a fifth freedom. The freedom of grab. And she won. The right to spend the next few years grabbing the bars of her own private cell.
story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to auto theft detail. A gang of criminals masquerading as legitimate auto dealers start to work in your city. Innocent people are cheated out of thousands of dollars. The thieves are clever. They work a foolproof formula. Your job? Stop them.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, February 19th. It was chilly in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of auto theft. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Nelson. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 10:25 a.m. when we got to the corner of 38th Street and Maxbury Avenue. The Greenleaf Day Nursery School.
Mrs. Palmer, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Just a minute. I've got it written down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me, ma'am. What the fellow
Palmer?
Policeman, Martin Romero, Friday.
Oh, yes, Carl. Going to get all about it. Is that it?
Yes, ma'am. We've been handling similar complaints the last month or so. We'd like to have you tell us everything that happened in your case, if you would, please.
One of the most underhanded things I've ever heard of, Sergeant. It would have been the same thing if he'd held me up with a gun, just out-and-out robbery.
Well, could you give us some of the details, ma'am? How you were first approached on the deal?
Excuse me a minute, please.
Children, time to go inside now. We're going to color pictures with the crayons this morning. Mrs. Johnson has them all ready for you inside. Bruce, Michael, Sandra, go along now. Inside, everyone.
Certainly wish the warm weather to hurry up and come. Children always raise such an uproar when we have to keep them indoors. Worst part of running a day nursery, the winter months.
Yes, ma'am, I suppose so.
Now, about your automobile, Miss Palmer, we understand you had it up for sale. You advertised in one of the local newspapers, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I ran one of those 3-day want ads over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I thought I'd get more for my car if I sold it myself. I mean, instead of selling it to a used car lot.
Yes, ma'am. How many answers did you get on your want ad?
Well, just the one way it turned out. This man came out and looked at my car first thing in the morning. He offered to pay me exactly what I was asking for it, so I sold it to him. That's just the way it went.
Who was this man, Mrs. Palmer? Was he representing some auto company?
Yes, he said he was anyway. He gave his name as Joseph Newhall. I've got his card inside. Said he was a buyer for Dan Barton's used car lot on South Cat Street. Nicely dressed man. He made it all seem so honest.
How was the deal arranged? Could you tell us? I mean, transfer the car, payment, and so forth?
Well, he gave me a check for $50, sort of a down payment to hold the car for him. It was a certified company check.
I see.
He told me he'd be back that afternoon with a certified check for the full amount of the car, $800.
Did he take your car with him then?
No, he didn't. That's why I had no reason to be suspicious. He left me the check for $50 and said he'd be there with the money. Said in the meantime, one of the employees from the used car lot might be along to pick up the car to save me the trouble of driving it downtown myself.
Mm-hmm. Same M.O., Joe, all the way.
Yeah, looks like it. Well, how did it go after that, Miss Palmer?
This worker from the used car lot came to the house to pick up the car about 1 o'clock that afternoon. Gave me a check for the full amount of the car, and I gave him the pink slip. Had a pair of white coveralls on, lettering on the back of them, Dan Barton's used cars. Looked like a typical mechanic or something. I wasn't the least bit suspicious.
Mm-hmm. How about the buyer, this Joseph Newhall? Did he show up later in the day?
No, he never came back. I've never seen him since. Haven't seen my car either. I called that Dan Barton's used car lot the next morning, and they told me they never heard of Joseph Newhall. Just made me sick, officer. I can't afford to lose the money I had in that car.
Yes, ma'am, we understand. The same thing's happened to a dozen people like you around the city.
Do you remember what this man Newhall looked like, Miss Palmer? His physical description, maybe the clothes he was wearing?
Yes, I've got it all written down, Sergeant, in my diary. Would you like to step inside, please? I've got my little office at the back of the school here.
All right, thank you very much.
I always make a record of everything in my diary. I've kept one ever since I was a girl in college, every day.
I suppose you've got all the information on your car, the make, license number, things like that?
Oh, yes, indeed. I got everything together I thought might help you. Right up these stairs, please.
Thank you. Go ahead. How about the description of the man in overalls, the one who came to pick up your car? Would you remember him, ma'am?
Yes, I've got that for you, too. Everything I thought would help. Just have a seat there, officers. I've got the face in my desk here.
Thank you,
Right ahead. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind the whole thing so much, but as I say, I can't afford to lose the cash I had tied up in my car.
That seems to be the way the thieves operate, ma'am. They've been cheating the people who've been least affording.
Terrible thing, just out-and-out robbery. There you are, Sergeant.
Thank you, ma'am.
There's the description of my car, license number, all the rest.
Yes, I see.
And here's the description of the two men. That Joseph all in coveralls who picked up my car.
Have you got that deposit check Newhall gave him his palm of the check for $50?
Right here, Sergeant. I saw that company about it, Dan Barton's used car lot. It's forgery. Not worth the paper it's printed on.
Have a look, Joe.
Yes, thanks.
Same as the other.
One thing I don't understand, how those crooks get these checks to begin with. Did they steal them?
No, ma'am. We figured they had them printed up. We're still trying to find out where.
Well, you know what the men look like. You'll be able to find them now, won't you?
Only wish it worked that way, ma'am. We've had good descriptions on both men for a month now. Hasn't helped too much.
I don't understand it at all. As I say, they're only common crooks. They can't be that smart, can they?
Well, there's only one way we can judge. We've been hunting every day for a month now.
Yes?
There's still... In the space of 33 days, the auto theft gang had victimized a dozen private citizens throughout the city. In each instance, the approach and the method of operation had been the same. The front man for the gang would personally answer a want ad inserted in a local newspaper by a private citizen advertising the sale of his automobile. The front man would represent himself falsely as a buyer for Dan Barton's used car lot, a well-known and legitimate used car dealer. He'd offer to pay exactly the sale price which the private party was asking. As a deposit, the so-called buyer would leave a counterfeit company check for $50 or $100 with a promise that he would return later in the day with a certified check for the full amount. After a few hours, another man posing as an employee of Dan Barton's used would call for the car and drive it away. Neither the car nor the so-called buyer were ever seen again. All efforts to trace them went for nothing. 11:40 a.m. Ben and I went back to the office and got out a broadcast and a supplementary APB on Mrs. Palmer's car and also on the phony car buyer who called himself Joseph Newhall. After lunch, we met with Sergeant Humphrey, one of the other four men out of auto theft detail who were working the case with us.
How'd you make out this morning, Army? That lead go anywhere at all?
Wasn't bad as far as it went. We found the place where they had the printing done.
Yeah, where was that?
Small up in the valley. Printed up the phony checks with that heading on it, Dan Barton's used car lot. Got out some business cards for him, too.
What was the name? Did you find out?
Yeah, the same one, Joseph Newhall. He ordered the checks and the business cards. The printer described him for us, same guy.
Where's it go from there?
No place. The printer told us Newhall had a car. He couldn't give us a license number. Couldn't even remember the make or the body style. Thought it was a late model car, that's about all.
Well, that's not much help.
No address on him either. It was a will call order paid for in cash.
If Newhall comes back, is it?
Yeah, it's covered. I don't figure there's much chance Newhall's going to do that. He ordered enough checks printed up the first time last of a year.
Well, I guess that's one lead we can forget.
Now, how about that special run the stats office made for us yesterday? Anything come out of that?
No, nothing. All the possibles on the list were checked out, all of them clear. Nothing from Barton's used car lot either. Everybody on their staff's been checked out, all their ex-employees, too. No sign any one of them might have had a hand in it.
Yeah. Oh, either of you seen the captain since this morning?
No, why?
Well, that idea we were talking over at the last meeting, he figures we'll go ahead with it this weekend.
How's he figure on working, Army? Personal contact?
Yeah, that's right. Most of the private parties who want to sell their cars themselves use that want ad deal over the weekend. They get a special ready Saturday and Sunday.
I know.
Thursday night's the deadline for having the ads in if they're going to run the full weekend. And that's when we start working on it.
We get in touch with every private party who's filed a want ad for the weekend advertising the sale of their car, huh?
Yeah, we'll contact them by phone, every one of them. We advise them that if anybody representing themselves as a buyer for Dan Barton's used car lot answers their want ad, they're to get in touch with us right away. If they can't stall the man long enough, we tell them to accept the information on the man the car is driving.
Well, it ought to work out. If we can get any kind of cooperation, it's going to be a big job. We'll have to cover all the want ads and all the papers.
We've got a good description of that phony buyer, Joseph Newhall. If they planted a want ad in one of the papers, maybe he's the one of the gang who brought the ad in. It's possible one of the ad takers might remember him. Might be worth checking anyway.
Well, could be. They might have phoned in the ad, too. That wouldn't help much.
As well, it's not foolproof, but it's a different approach. It's a plan anyway. We've tried everything else we can think of to reach the thieves.
I get it. Auto theft, Friday time. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. When was that? I see. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yes, as soon as we can. Thank you, sir. Well, maybe we won't have to wait for the weekend.
What do you mean?
A man out in Echo Park. He runs a candy store out there. He advertised his car for sale in this morning's paper. Said the first one to answer it was a buyer from Dan Barton's used car lot. Gave his name as Joseph Newhall.
Looks like the same M.O.
Mm-hmm. They make a deal?
Well, the candy store owner wouldn't go for the deposit check. He wanted the full amount. Said the deal didn't sound right to him.
How's it stand now?
Well, Newhall said he'd come back with a check for the full sale price.
When?
8 o'clock tonight. 2:20 p.m. We drove out and questioned the candy store owner further. His description of Newhall tallied with the others, but again, the potential victim had failed to get any kind of a description of the car Newhall was driving or the license number. Ben and I staked out at the house. 8 p.m. came and went. The suspect failed to show. By midnight, there was still no sign of him. Well, the way it shaped up, Newhall apparently had a policy of making a deal at first contact or forgetting about it. He probably figured that if a person was at all suspicious, the interval would give him time to check, and Newhall wasn't giving away any odds. All day Wednesday, the stakeout went on. No sign of the suspect. On Thursday night, the local newspapers gave us lists of names and phone numbers of all private parties who had ordered want ads for the coming weekend to advertise the sale of an automobile. We divided up the names, and 6 of us took turns on the phones and started calling each party. We warned them about the car theft ring and advised them of what steps to take in the event Joseph Newhall or one of the other gang members approached them with a proposition to buy their car. One of the private parties we contacted was a Mr. Roy Harmon. Ben got on one and read anything we'd prepared. Sergeant Ormsby used the other extension and called another party running an ad.
Sergeant Ormsby, Los Angeles Police Department Auto.
How's that, sir? Yes, and one of the gang usually goes under the name of Joseph Newhall. Contacted it all. That. Right, thank you, sir.
What was that all about?
A man by the name of Harmon runs a cocktail lounge out on South Cole. He took in a check over the bar last night, company check from Dan Barton's used car lot. Says it was signed Joseph Newhall.
Well, he ought to remember who passed it.
He does. I got it right here. A man by the name of Frank Curtis. He's a regular customer at the bar. Harmon says this Curtis came in the place last night with a man in a dark suit, and the man seemed to be a friend of Curtis's.
Yeah.
Well, I asked him what the friend looked like, and he described him. It was Newhall.
Mm-hmm. What about that check business?
Harmon says he was standing bar at the time. Told me this Frank Curtis and Newhall had quite a few drinks together, and they ran out of money. Newhall wanted to cash a check, but Harmon said no, he didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this Frank Curtis is a regular customer at the bar, and he offered to endorse the check for Newhall. So Harmon said okay, and he cashed it.
Wow. How well does Harmon know this customer is, this Curtis?
Pretty well. Lives across the street from him.
We checked Frank Curtis through R&I, but he had no previous criminal record. We left the rest of the list for the other men, and Ben and I drove out and talked to Roy Harmon, the owner of the cocktail lounge where the suspect Joseph Newhall had cashed a check with the help of his friend, Frank Curtis. Harmon told the same story he'd given Ben over the phone. Curtis was a long-time neighbor of his and a steady customer at his cocktail lounge. As for Newhall, he'd never set eyes on him until the night before. Harmon gave us the home address of Frank Curtis, and we checked it out. Mrs. Curtis answered the door and told us that her husband Frank was working the newly inaugurated night shift at an aircraft plant in the south end of the city. Ben and I drove down to the plant, and after checking with the personnel office, we finally located Curtis at his work. He was an assistant foreman in one of the aircraft assembly shops.
The truth, Sergeant Romero. The last time I saw Newhall before years ago. We used to work at a work plant together. What's the matter anyways? You done something?
We understand you endorsed a check to Newhall for $50. Do you know him that well? I mean, if you'd endorsed checks for him?
Well, maybe I shouldn't have. Wife's always telling me I ought to be more careful who I'm signing checks for. Well, what happened anyway? Wasn't the check any good?
Do you have any idea where we could find this friend of yours, this Newhall?
Well, I don't know. During the war, he and his wife lived in this housing project off North Main. I know they moved from that place, though.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, old Joe didn't tell me where he was living. I gave him my address, told him to drop over for a beer sometime. Don't remember getting his address, though. Couldn't tell me what this is about, huh?
Just a routine check. We'd like to locate Newhall, that's all. Got a few questions we'd like to ask him.
Excuse me, we better watch it here, Sergeant.
Yeah.
Men coming through with that jig there. Okay, fellas, straight on through, all clear. Vertical fin assembly, down to 3. We're getting busy again, all right. Seems like the old swing shift days all over again. War years.
Yeah, you mentioned a minute ago that Newhall is married, Miss Curry.
Yeah, that's right.
What about his wife? Can you tell us anything at all about her?
Betty? No, I don't think so. Her and Joe seem to get along all right. Got along pretty well, matter of fact. Nice girl, Betty. I never minded her much.
The Newhalls have any children? Do you know that?
No kids. Both of them work, her and Joe.
Uh-huh. Would you know if Newhall's wife is still working?
I don't know. Probably is. But yeah, matter of fact, she is. Joe happened to mention it the other night when we were talking. Just happened to think of it. Well, go ahead. Well, I remember I asked about Betty, and he said she was still working. Same old place, same old job, that's all.
Where is this place she works, do you know?
Yeah, City Hall.
We continued questioning Frank Curtis, and he told us that to the best of his knowledge, the suspect's wife, Betty Newhall, had a civil service rating and that she'd worked as a file clerk in the record room of one of the bureaus in the municipal. The next morning, Ben and I got in touch with the civil service officials at the City Hall, and they got out a tracer on the wife of the suspect. 11:20 a.m. I got it. Auto theft Friday. Yes, sir. How's that? I didn't hear. When? Yeah, I see. Yes, sir. Right. We'll check with you in about an hour. Bye. I don't know why we always have to do it the hard way.
Why? What was it?
The call back on Newhall's wife. Most of it checks out just the way Curtis told us.
What's the rub?
Betty Newhall quit her job a month ago. Hasn't been around, hasn't been seen since. Civil service can't even contact her.
What's the deal?
She moved. No forwarding address, not a trace of her.
Exit Ball Road off the 57 freeway. Light up the holidays with a new vehicle from Anaheim Auto Center. We'll make your holiday dreams come true at Anaheim Auto Center with our incredible savings and huge discounts. Need some extra money for the holidays? Come to Anaheim Auto Center today and save thousands. We have a great selection of new vehicles and unbeatable service. Light up your holiday season today at Anaheim Auto Center. We want you to be completely satisfied. The holidays are the perfect time to buy a new vehicle. Why go anywhere else? We have it all at one convenient location near the Anaheim Pond. So light up your holiday season with a great new car or truck from Anaheim Auto Center.
Anaheim Auto Center, we're on the ball.
Exit Ball Road off the 57 freeway.
KNX 1070 News Radio.
Saturday, February 23rd. The strongest lead we'd had to the auto theft gang began to fade. Mrs. Betty Newhall, the wife of our principal suspect, wasn't to be found. We checked out all her known friends and relatives, the places she was known to frequent. There wasn't a trace of her. Ben got all the available information on her from the Civil Service office, and we got out a broadcast in the supplementary All Points Bulletin. We found out she had a 10-year-old son, so we checked with the Board of Education to see if the boy was registered in one of the city schools. He wasn't listed. Still no response. We stayed on it. In the meantime, the weekend was wearing past the halfway point. The other two teams of men working the case were standing by, but apparently none of the private parties who were running want ads over the weekend advertising the sale of an automobile had been approached yet by either Joseph Newhall or some other member of the gang. If they did make a contact, it hadn't been reported to us. Saturday night, still no response. 8:50 p.m. Ben and I had some supper at Johnny Coken's place, and then we went back to the office.
Not a bad meal at all, huh?
Pretty fair for a Saturday night. Good soup.
Yeah, there's nothing like that corn chowder Johnny puts out. It's the best.
Sure wish you'd do something about that coffee. It's like taking a shot of adrenaline, isn't it?
It is pretty strong, and... excuse me. Maybe that's what's giving me this heartburn.
Where's Ormsby? I thought he was covering.
So did I. He was here when I left.
Joe, Ben?
Hi, Army. Thought we lost you.
I'm taking a call from Hollywood Division. Good piece of news.
What's that?
Newhall's wife. They found her.
At approximately 25 minutes past 8 that night, a dark-haired woman in her late 30s had brought a young boy into a pharmacy in the Hollywood area. Apparently, the woman had been drinking, but she was not intoxicated. The young boy with her, whom she identified as her 10-year-old son, was badly cut and bruised about the face and head. The woman insisted that the pharmacist on duty treat the boy and attend to his injuries. After arguing with the woman, the pharmacist called the Hollywood Receiving Hospital. An ambulance was dispatched, and the boy and his mother there for treatment. At Hollywood Receiving, the woman gave her name as Betty Harrison, and her son's name is George Harrison. But a routine identification check by officers next door at the Hollywood Division Station disclosed her true name as Mrs. Betty Newhall. The desk sergeant ordered her held for interrogation and notified our office immediately. 9:30 p.m. Ben and I arrived at the Hollywood Division.
Your boy George, Mrs. Newhall, how did he happen to get beat up like that? It's pretty bad for a little fellow.
I warned Joe about hitting little George. I told him if he did it again, I'd walk out. Well, I did walk out. I don't care what happens to him.
You mean the boy's father did that to him, beat him up like that?
He's not George's father. second marriage. My name used to be Donnelly. I had 2 kids. One died.
Uh-huh.
When the divorce came through, I got custody of George, and I married Joe Newhall.
You know why we're looking for your husband, Ms. Newhall?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do you think so?
Car business. I knew what he was doing.
Do you have any idea at all where we can find your husband?
I'm not sure. He might be a lot of places. Just can't get over what he did to George. No reason at all. Kid came home and asked if he could go to the show. Husband got up and slapped him. Been drinking quite a bit. He hit the kid with his closed fist, kept hitting him. A grown man slugging a 10-year-old kid like that. I don't care about any man where George is concerned. Nobody's going to treat a kid of mine like that.
You said you knew about your husband's dealing in the car business, Mrs. Newhall. How much do you know about it?
I didn't have any part of it, I can tell you that much. It was his idea from the beginning, my husband's. Got the men together to work the racket. He made all the plans. He gave all the orders.
How is it you quit your job at the city hall in such a hurry?
My husband's idea, I guess. He thought if anything happened, he didn't want to be traced that easy. Then he had to go and get drunk that night. Cash that check. He always did stupid things like that.
Mm-hmm. How about the gang your husband has working with him, Ms. Newhall? Can you tell us anything about them?
Yes, I can. 3 fellows working with him I know of. Deadman and Curly Reese and Jack Whitmore. Maybe there's someone else besides them, but I don't know of.
You know where these men live, ma'am? Where we can find them?
I think I do, yeah. I got the addresses at home. At this time, they're probably all met.
You know the places they were supposed to be staying.
Yeah, I got the addresses at home.
How about the cars they got on this deal they were working? What are they doing with them? Do you know that?
I don't know for sure. They were moving them east, I think, selling them back there.
Yes, ma'am.
I used to always get the marriage, the jealousy, the Deeford.
No.
Even they didn't like kids. They didn't want to have a home. Why'd they have to be that way?
Well, I'd like to ask you something, if I could.
Yeah.
Why'd you marry him? 10:43 p.m. We stopped at the Newhall apartment on the way back to the city hall, called the office, and arranged for a stakeout. The wife of the suspect, Betty Newhall, gave us the names and addresses of the people she knew to be working with her husband, Joseph Newhall, in the auto theft gang. She had no information to offer on the cars they might be driving. When we got to the office, we took a complete statement from Mrs. Newhall, and then she was booked in at the main jail on suspicion of grand theft auto. 11:09 p.m. Together with Wilson and Ormsby, we started checking out the addresses of the gang members. Our first 2 stops, we got nothing. On our last 2, we did a little better. We picked up a Jack Whitmore, Curly Reese, and a Carl Stedman, 3 of the names which Mrs. Newhall had mentioned. We took them downtown and booked them in at the main jail. That still left the principal suspect, Joseph Newhall, unaccounted for. At 1:45 a.m. the next morning, we got a tip as to his whereabouts, the small hotel on East 1st Street. We checked it out. The man answering Newhall's description was registered in room 209 on the 2nd floor. We got a pass key from the room clerk on duty and started up the stairs.
209. Down this way, Gil.
All right. Here's 7. Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can get a rise, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, who is it?
Yeah, police officers. All right, hold it there, Mr. Down, Ben.
Yeah. Hey, what is this? What's this all about?
You generally sleep with your clothes on, Newhall?
Look, I don't know what you're talking about. What is this, a shakedown?
He's clean, Joe. I'll check his bag.
All right, I'll stay out of those things. You haven't got any right breaking in here like this, going through my property.
Let's relax, Newhall. This won't take long.
2 full pads of them, Joe. Find them in his suitcases. Company check. Dan Barton's used car lot.
We talked to your friends, mister. We got one side of the story. You want to come downtown and give us yours?
You get nothing from me. Not unless I see my lawyer. You can't hold me on any charges.
Grand theft auto, Newhall. We've got the witnesses. We've got the evidence. If you've got something to say, say it. If you haven't, we'll get along downtown.
You haven't got anything on me. You haven't got enough to hold me an hour.
We're going to give it a try. For a full 5 hours, we questioned Newhall, both at the hotel and later downtown in the interrogation room. And after 5 hours of questioning, he finally broke and admitted being the mastermind behind the auto theft racket.
Your true name is Joseph Willard Newhall, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. You can't blame the whole setup on me, though. My wife had a hand in it just as much as I did.
Well, we've already got her statement. You want to give us yours?
Yeah, she's just as much to blame as I am. We didn't hurt anybody anyway. It's just a con deal, that's all. We didn't hurt anybody.
How do you figure that?
Well, just a simple con deal. People advertising their cars for sale are trying to cheat out a few bucks for themselves. We just outfigured them, that's all.
You ready to dictate a statement for us?
You know, we outfigured you two. You'd never have reached us if it wasn't for my wife.
We'd reach you.
Not in 30 years you wouldn't. Where'd you go in circles? Just one hitch. My wife and that stupid kid of hers. Just because I slapped him around a little, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that.
Well, you better learn a lesson, mister.
What?
Next time you fight, don't pick a 10-year-old.
you've just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On May 29th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. A check of his fingerprints revealed that Joseph Newhall's true name was Joseph Orrin Henderson, and that he had a previous record of forgery and burglary in the state of South Carolina. Henderson, alias Newhall, was tried and convicted, along with his associates in the auto theft gang, on 8 counts of grand theft and forgery of a fictitious check. They received sentences as prescribed by law. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1 or more than 10 years. Forgery of a fictitious check is punishable by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 1 year, or in the state penitentiary for not more than 14 years. The wife, Betty Newhall, was convicted as an accomplice and was sentenced to serve 1 year in the county jail.
Ladies and gentlemen, our security and the peace of the world are in danger while hundreds of millions behind the Iron Curtain are victims of vicious lies about the United States and other free nations. Join the crusade for freedom through your local crusade committee, or by writing to General Clay, Empire State Building, New York City. Make a contribution to its work. Help truth fight communism. Join the crusade for freedom.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, the American Broadcasting Company brings to its entire network one of radio's most unusual programs. Pat Novak For Hire.
Sure, I'm Pat Novak For Hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak For Hire. If you're trying to make a living down on the waterfront in San Francisco, you got to run things like a smorgasbord. You take a little of everything you can get your hands on. Even then, it's a bumpy ride, because down here, everybody tries to pad his part. Oh, I rent boats and do anything else good men pay bad men to do. You don't get many gold stars that way, but you pay the bar bill, and it's about as safe as a closet full of tigers. The only way you can make friends down on the waterfront is to die. I found that out Tuesday night. I went to the wrestling matches and watched Gorgeous George throw some guy around like a poker chip in Tijuana. I was in the middle of the crowd on my way out of the place when this guy stepped up behind me and started talking.
You got company, Novak.
Huh?
I said you got company. On both sides.
No. Did your friend get his face at a fire sale, too?
Can't all be pretty. Keep walking, Novak.
This gun in my back supposed to help?
That's up to you. Straight ahead and out the side door.
You got the right growl, but the wrong guy, mister.
You keep working your mouth, but nothing comes out. All right, this way.
What are your plans? Shall we take the kids?
The car right down here.
Now, look, Big Shot. In a drugstore, I get all the mystery I want for 2 bits.
You want things explained?
Yeah, besides Shovelhead here, I don't understand a thing.
We just want Joe Denine.
I never heard of him either.
We just want Joe Denine.
All right, you can have him. You're welcome. See his wife. See anybody you like. I don't even know the guy.
You're full of talk. As soon as you want to make it the right kind, you can go home. Here we are, into the back seat. You drive, Eddie.
You boys run on. I'll grab a cab.
Get in, Novak. You're not going to take a boat. That's it. Just be a good mouse.
You got a lot of time to waste it this way, mister.
You're too gaddy, Novak.
And you're too tough, Junior.
And this noise is beginning to give me a headache.
Oh!
Let's go, Eddie. Novak's going to sulk a while.
He could have taken 3 bases on that wallet. I spread out on the back seat like a bowl of cake batter and tried to think of a guy named Joe Denine. There was nobody on my list for that name. But the way these two gunsels acted, he was supposed to be a blood relative. I could hear him talking dimly, and I tried to follow the conversation, but it was like trying to put a smoke ring in your pocket. I don't know how long the tour lasted. It must have been about 30 or 40 minutes when the car pulled up and the big gun started to yank me.
Wake up! Wake up, sweet boy! Come on, it's time for your 10 o'clock feeding.
Yeah. Wait till I borrow some legs, huh?
Come on, you never looked better. All right. Down the dock here.
Are we playing a new game or hunting a guy named Denine?
That's right.
Good. Now I know the rules.
Well, is that your boat, Novak?
It's got my name on it.
Is that your boat, Novak?
Well, what's it look like? The Normandy? Of course it's my boat. Who threw the blood all over it? One of your friends?
Maybe Denine.
Now, look, you better back up and start a recap. I never heard of Denine, and from the size of his friends, I'm just about as happy.
You mean he didn't rent a boat off you?
If he used that boat, he stole it, mister. I closed up tonight at 7.
You make it sound good.
It is good. I've been off the waterfront 4 hours. In the meantime, somebody takes my boat and gets it chock full of holes and sends you around a week. Who is Denine?
A friend.
I don't blame either of you for hanging on to one.
We were supposed to meet him at your landing at 10. He was going to rent one of your boats, and we were going to meet him at 10.
There's the boat. You want to pay the damages?
We came early and found the boat piled up, blood all over and no Denine. You got any ideas?
Maybe he cut himself shaving. Dragged the bay, mister. I don't know your guy, but somebody did. They met him out there in the bay and cut him down.
You sound happy.
Now, look, I don't care one way or another, except he used my boat. If he wanted to die, he should have hired a Davenport. That's all I know. I never heard of Joe Denine.
Yeah.
You and your friend here better go sap somebody else.
Sure, Novak. We'll look around, but hang on to your cards because you still got a hand in this game.
Thanks, Mother. I'll remember that.
Watch out, Eddie! Watch out,
You all right, Eddie?
Nice curve, Novak.
You're wrong, mister. My friends ride the cable car.
You made a bum pitch, Novak. Nice.
All right, let go. You can't afford a fight now.
I want you for Eddie, Novak.
Sorry, fellow. The water's going to be cold.
Hey, what's the trouble? Trouble going on?
No. Whatever gave you that idea?
I'm a night watchman over here. That fellow lying on the dock there dead?
Well, if he's not, he's going to catch cold.
What about the other fellow? Maybe he can't swim.
What do you care? He doesn't.
Oh. They come here looking for something?
Yeah.
Guess they didn't find it, huh?
Somebody's satisfied. They were trying to find the guy that came out of that boat down there.
Oh, you mean the funny-looking guy?
Huh?
A guy got out of that boat a few hours ago, all banged up. I think he was in a fight.
Yeah?
Sure, somebody shot him. I think he was in a fight.
Where'd he go?
Down the dock toward the street. He asked about a fella and went down the dock.
Oh.
He asked about a fella named Novak. Do you know him?
Yeah, but I'll do my best to forget. It wasn't going to be easy to forget. I knew there was a guy wandering around San Francisco waiting to jog my memory. And before long, somebody was going to find out those 2 dead guys weren't doing light housekeeping down on the dock. Once homicide smelled that red meat, they'd turn Inspector Hellman loose. That's like pouring a bottle of cyanide in a wedding cake. Oh, he's a smart cop with a heart the size of a full-grown pea. I got off the dock in a hurry and I went home. When I left, the watchman was still standing there waiting to check in the next murder and smiling like a vulture with the first option on a massacre. Well, I had to get home and look sweet in case Hellman showed up. When I opened the door to my place, Hellman was on the couch with a pencil in one hand and a movie magazine in the other.
Hello, Novak. You busy?
No, I'll just stand here and watch you. A little more of that pencil and movie magazine routine, and you'll break out in a cold sweat.
Where have you been?
Staying out of other people's apartments?
I got an answer for that.
You haven't got an answer for anything, Hellman. You can't fill in the return address envelope. What's on your mind?
Can I make a call?
No, not to play cat and mouse. If you want to know about that bloodbath down on the dock, say so.
Yeah?
They're close strangers. I never saw either of them before.
You're getting loose around the mouth, Novak.
Huh?
That's right. If some of your playmates stub their toes, it's news to me. You better tell me, though. It'll save time.
Well, what's the use? If a fact walked up and sat in your lap, you'd lose it.
Suit yourself. Have a drink?
Yeah, I will. Where's the bottle opener?
Huh?
The bottle opener. You got teeth for it. I need a bottle opener, Helmut.
I don't know. Try the kitchen.
All right.
Try the light.
Well.
About this guy on the floor, Novak. Don't tell him to move because I don't think he can.
When I looked down at the guy on the floor, I felt like a burlap sack from the neck down. He was a big guy lying on his back, and you got the idea he took it hard. He didn't like the way the vote came in. Because he wasn't relaxed the way most people are when they're on the prowl for a harp. He was about as rigid as a coil of wet line on a steamer deck. His face was pockmarked and the color of an old piece of abalone. Hellman was standing over him, and the shadow cut across the lower part of his face. It almost blocked out the gun, a big .38 lying about 4 feet away. The rest of the kitchen was a mess. It was torn up worse than a Japanese lantern in a high wind. Hellman was leaning against the cabinet and smiling, like the banker in a crooked blackjack game.
Does he belong to you, Novak?
No, he's not pretty enough. Roll him over. We'll find out who he is.
Already been through his stuff.
Wipe your hands. The green still shows.
His name is Joe Denine.
You sure we're popular, Joe.
Why?
The scavenger hunt. Every garnop in town's been looking for him.
I figured you for the prize.
2 of them picked me up and lugged me down to the waterfront.
Yeah?
I told you about them. They ran into bad weather.
Why'd they take you?
Because I look like a bird dog, maybe. I don't know why, Hellman. They just took me. In the meantime, Sunshine here took my boat out and got shot up.
And he came up here to borrow your adhesive tape.
That's all I know, Hellman. He must have figured me for a part.
I got the same trouble, Novak. That gun on the floor helps, too.
That gun's second lead at best. I never saw it before.
It's the murder gun. How'd it get here?
I don't know.
Maybe the scullery maid left it. Come on, Novak. You're in the spot. You better start digging.
If I do any digging, the dirt's going to go in your face, Hellman.
You've got a nice face, too, Novak.
You better buy a big shield, Hellman. You've got a lot to hide behind.
Stop beefing. You're the host. What about the safety deposit box?
You're ahead of me on that one. You ought to have your picture taken.
He was talking about a safety deposit box when I got here.
It was alive when you got here?
That's right. Show more joy. The neighbors heard the shooting and phoned in.
Well, who did it? What did he say?
He said, tough luck, copper. That's all he said. Something about a safety deposit box and tough luck, copper.
Oh, that's real fine. You let him die clammed up. You're smart, Hellman. You let him off with a third-rate tagline.
You're lucky, Novak. This way it's going to take me 12 hours to wrap you up. I'm going to run that gun through and check a couple of things, then I'll be on your tail.
I want to see you follow something up, Hellman. With that big nose of yours, you couldn't find a moose in the bathtub.
Look, Novak, you're a small-time waterfront punk. You've been lucky so far, but you're still a punk. I don't like you, and I'm going to hang you by your heels. I'm going to get you. If it's the last thing I ever do, I'm going to get you.
Hellman, if I thought you were on the level about that, I'd give myself up. When Hellman left, things were about as dim as a glowworm at high noon. All the leads were tucked away in the morgue. Those 2 stiffs on the dock checked out with nothing but a grunt, and the guy up in my place left a .38 and some mild regrets. I had the funny feeling there was a lead up there in that apartment, but I couldn't get a hold of it. Something waiting to be understood, the way a thing gets balanced on the edge of your brain, half in, half out, like the melody but not the words of an old song. Well, I didn't know where to turn. I was hunting for the shoreline on a dark night. So I looked up the only honest guy I know, an ex-doctor and a boozer by the name of Jocko Madigan. Oh, he's all right, but he's got the idea that all liquid that isn't 100 proof lacks character. I finally found him in a little bar down near Union Square. He was talking to a blonde girl and a sailor when I walked in.
Ah, Patsy, you find me in the late October of my life, trying to recapture a few April moments.
Yeah, Jocko, I got to talk to you.
That's what I like about good whiskey. It makes you too sentimental to be mad at yourself for growing old.
Now, look, I'm in a jam. Lay off that stuff long enough to listen.
Patsy, you underrate the grape. It's a terrible mistake. It's thrown off the whole perspective of history.
All right, Jocko.
Like that story about young Washington and the cherry tree. They blame him for that, but actually it was his first hint of future greatness.
Yeah.
They talk about vandalism, whereas the truth of the matter is He was just preparing a few Manhattans for the family. The whole perspective of history has been altered, Patsy.
Oh, stop it, will you? I'm in trouble. Will you help me out?
Yes, if you'll allow me to get a word in edgewise. What kind of trouble?
There's a dead guy up at my place.
Oh, I don't know why you're in trouble. Think of his bleak outlook on things.
Hellman's nosing around, and he thinks I did it.
Did you?
No, he got shot in relays, but he picked my place to quit. And there are 2 other dead guys down on the dock.
What were their practices?
They strong-armed me about 10 o'clock and took me down to the waterfront. We were supposed to find a guy named Joe Denine, but they looked too ripe to somebody.
How about Denine?
He's that guy up at my place. When Hellman got there, he was muttering about a safety deposit box and staring at a big 38. Oh, come on, you gotta help me, Jocko.
Yes, where would you like me to spread the ashes?
I want you to get out and find out everything you can about Joe Denine, will you?
He's your house guest. Why don't you go?
Hit the Chronicle and the Examiner morgues and try to find out if he has a safety deposit box in any of the banks, huh?
Where are you going? Before prison, I mean.
I'm going down and lie in Hellman's shadow until something turns up. I need every minute, Jocko, so hurry.
Well, I'll need a quick one for the road first.
You'll get going right now, Jocko.
Patsy, you have a defiant attitude for a man on the doorstep to the next world. Try to be sweeter until you discover your normal disposition will do. You can start by paying my bar bill.
All right. Will you hurry? How much do you owe?
About $11.
What have you been doing all night? Are you crazy?
I may owe $11, Patsy, but so far I've had a better night than you have. Good night, lover.
I had to get started on some answers because once Hellman checked on those 2 guys at the dock, he'd go to work on me. He'd keep hacking away and finally cut me down like a piece of flint in a cigarette lighter. Well, after I left Jocko, I started down to headquarters. It was a little after midnight, and the streets were wet and silent, except that now and then you could hear a woman's laughter coming out of the dark as you passed along. That's the only sound the night keeps whole. Well, I was cutting down Leavenworth Street when it came to me. I knew what my lead was up in that apartment. It didn't hit me suddenly. It kept shoving in like a piece of old seaweed on the water, moving in and out and finally brushing up against you. If that guy was alive when Hellman got there, that meant that maybe he could have phoned somebody. And if he did, then they'd have a record of it down at the desk. Well, I got back to my place and asked the operator. Oh, it feels good when you got the right sweepstakes ticket. She said a call had been put in from my place at 10:15 to the Ambrose Hotel, room 204. Well, at last, things were beginning to make sense. They must have made sense for about 5 seconds because Hellman called. The girl handed me the phone and he started in.
I got news for you, Novak. We checked the prints on that murder gun. They don't add.
Take your troubles to the chaplain, Hellman. I got my quota.
Yeah. You got fancy friends, too, Novak. The prints belong to Jake Fidello.
Yeah, how do you spell that?
F-I-D... You're cute, aren't you, Novak?
To Jake Fidello, I'm nothing. Who is he?
Cheap punk like you, Novak. He's working on a 20-year stretch in Alcatraz.
Huh?
Yeah, Alcatraz. So there's no time between the murder gun and the murder.
Maybe Fidello bought himself a 2-day furlough.
We already checked. Guard saw him in his cell at 11 o'clock tonight reading a book.
Guards pay the rent, too, Hellman. My boat was out in that bay tonight, and it came back full of bullets and blood. Now you're trying to tell me there's no connection. You better find out if a guy can skip Alcatraz for a few hours.
I'll wait, Novak. Maybe you can tell me how it's done before long.
Well, nothing matched now. It was like the chorus girl's legs in a cheap nightclub. If Jake Fidello was smart enough to beat Alcatraz for a couple of hours, then he wasn't dumb enough to leave that murder gun behind. And what was the connection between Denine and Jake Fidello? And who lived at the Ambrose Hotel? Well, I went up there to find out. It was a small place up near the top of Telegraph Hill, and when I rode by, I could see Alcatraz sitting out on the bay, a lonely island full of birthdays. The Ambrose turned out to be a high-toned little joint, the sort of place where the welcome mats printed in Old English. I went up to 204. The card in the door said Frederica Sims. I knocked, and when the door opened, it was like shaking hands with a flamethrower. She was a tall number, and she screamed Final Edition all over. She stood in the doorway for a minute and swayed in a nice, contented way like a snake on the right diet. And when she said hello, you wanted to hand her your arm and say, twist.
Good evening.
Yeah. My name's Novak.
I'll remember. Won't you come in?
It'll save an argument.
Good. I hope you don't mind crowds, Mr. Novak.
She means me, Mr. Novak. I'm Mike Trevor.
And I'm Freddie Sims.
Well, that brings us up to date.
A drink would do so much more. You need a drink, Mr. Novak. You look a little dusty.
Don't mind her, Novak. She addresses all people as peasants.
All right, now suppose you two landowners tell me who killed Joe Denine.
You know, Mike, I don't think he wants the drink.
We'll all celebrate when you get around to Denine.
I don't think we know a man by the name of Denine, particularly if he's dead.
Yes, I'm sure we wouldn't like him.
Come on, let's drop the smart talk. Come on, back in the saloon. A guy by the name of Joe Denine died all over my kitchen tonight.
Don't get tough, Novak. If you missed your dinner, all right, but don't come up here screaming about your dead friend.
Now, look, I'm about 10 feet behind a phone call. Denine put in a call for this number just before he died.
Then it was whimsy, Novak, or anything else you'd like to call it. We don't know the man. You can mull it over on your way downstairs.
Yeah, and you can use the time to think over that safety deposit box.
What safety deposit
box?
Oh,
you're jumping your cue, lady. Make it more casual, huh?
Do you know what you're talking about, Novak?
You think so?
I'll tell you what I'll do, Novak. I'll buy that key from you.
You got a deal, unless you want to pay it off with money.
You mean Joe Denine?
That's right. I'm running front on a murder rap. You want that key. If you want it bad enough, come on down to headquarters and we'll make a trade.
No, thanks, Novak. You didn't look bright, but I thought you might be hiding your brains somewhere. This way you lose money.
You lose even more, Trevor. I was going to ease you into that murder rap, but the offer's out. You'll have to struggle in, and you'll be too tired to get out.
Can I loan either of you boys a pickaxe?
No, thanks. Well, I'm going to run along. Can I drop you anyplace, Novak?
I'll stay.
You know, I didn't think I could drop you anyplace. Novak, you ought to sell that gleam in your eye. Some airport could use it. Good night, buddy. Be careful.
Good night, Mike. I can take care of myself.
Yes, if you try. That's all I was worried about.
Your friend reads the wrong books.
I'll bet you never wasted your time that way. Why don't you sit down on the couch here and have a drink, Patsy? Now that the argument's over.
Is it?
Well, at least we need a drink.
Yeah, sure. That'll make the talk come easy. About that key.
Do you think I want the key?
Like nothing else in the world.
No. That's a little rash, Patsy. But I do want it. I want it very badly.
Those are famous last words, lady. You heard the round with Mike. The prices haven't changed.
Mm-hmm. That's too expensive, darling. Here's your dinner. What are you looking at, Patsy?
You? The way you slide around on that couch?
Yes.
Yeah. You belong in the Everglades.
If I were there, Patsy, I think you're the kind of a guy who'll be right around the next bend.
You sound pretty sure. That's a good way to lose your shirt.
I am sure, Patsy. I know that about us. We belong in the swamp.
Yeah.
We belong together. Because we're the same kind. We're neither good nor bad. We just are. And that has to do.
You make it sound corny, baby.
Try to hide, darling, but I can see you peeking through your fingers. I can see you awfully good from here, Patsy.
Watch out. You're backing into a corner, Angel.
But I've got you with me.
Make some more noise, huh? I like it.
It's true. I've got you with me, haven't I, Patsy?
I can still struggle.
I'll bet you don't struggle good. I'll bet you don't struggle good at all, Patsy.
I still got that key, baby.
Yes, you see.
It stays at my place.
I could eat you, Patsy. You're wonderful.
Yeah.
You never hand me my drink. We'll start at the end of the table.
Sure.
That's it, darling.
It doesn't pay much to fall in love. I spent enough time on her rug to work my way into the design. And when I finally came to, it was morning. There was nobody around the place, so I started for home. On the way, I tried to fill in the blind spots, but it was like trying to match pearls in the dark. Somebody had killed Denine for the key to that safety deposit box, but where was the key? If the girl or Mike Trevor did it, then why were they still on the trail? Well, when I got to my apartment, the place was torn apart. Looked something like a mop closet after a New Year's Eve party. Jocko was sitting in the middle of the room listening to the water fizz.
Good morning. Where'd you get the bump on the head?
Romance. What'd you find out, Jocko?
Denine had lots of friends and enemies.
Yeah, one of them's Jake Fidello.
He's number one on the list. Denine had a brawl with Fidello 2 years ago. Jake promised to square the beef.
He's in a bad spot for it now.
Maybe. Denine has no safety deposit box.
Oh, that was my out.
Perhaps you can take up folk dancing in prison. I'll send you diagrams of new steps from time to time. Fidello has a safety deposit box, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's got a lot of money floating around somewhere.
Well.
And a lot of women doing the same thing.
We're getting a better shuffle now. Is the girl's name Freddie Sims?
That's right. Fidello loves her like the last 15 minutes of life. That's why he won't like it.
Get to the point, huh?
She's supposed to be waiting for him, but she's got married in Mexico to a guy named Mike Trevor, Fidello's best friend. Does it make sense?
No, it doesn't. Suppose Jake's found out about his sweetheart and best friend. Why would he kill Denine?
I don't know, except you'll find out, Patsy, that sometimes the difference between your best friend and your worst enemy is only a matter of opportunity.
Yeah, Novak talking.
How's the dent in your forehead?
Oh, you get around, Hellman.
Yeah, we picked her up at your apartment.
She tell you about that key?
A little. She made a confession, too.
She's generous.
Not to Mike Trevor. She pinned the whole thing on him and signed a statement. We're going to have to pick him up now. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Why?
In case he wants to shoot somebody, I'm offering you.
Things were moving fast now. I sent Jocko down to start repair work on the boat, and Hellman picked me up 5 minutes later. We drove out Geary and turned on Van Ness. Oh, Hellman was real subtle. He stopped right in front of the rooming house where Mike Trevor was living. The girl had mapped it out for him. Trevor was in a first-floor room. It was a quiet neighborhood. But as we opened the front door and started in, I got the idea it was going to be a tough place to get any sleep for the next few minutes.
Down on the right side here. Stay ahead of me, Novak.
You're one copper who will die in bed, Hellman.
Down the hall and be quiet. Yeah, this is it.
On this lap, you go first.
Stand back while I throw it open.
And empty, Hellman.
Girl said he was here. What's that?
Your boy's up at the top of the stairs.
You see him?
Oh, he's not wearing neon pants. Go up and get him.
Come on down, Trevor. Your girl talks. Come on down and sign a confession.
I've got a better idea, Copper. You come up and hand me the pen.
All right, Novak.
Move over, Hellman. He's going to argue.
He's heading for the roof. Let's go.
Hold it, Hellman. If that door up there is locked, we'll run right through the barrel.
You get one more chance, Trevor. Come on down.
That roof door is locked.
All right, Copper, I'm coming down. Make a hole.
Now you got your hole, Trevor. Yeah. Novak, you better get to that safety deposit box. Get there in a hurry. Before the girl.
Well, the city will lose him now, Hellman. Let's get to that safety deposit box.
Let her have the key. What do you care, Novak? She's Fidello's girl.
No. There's a queer twist here somewhere. How do you know what's in that box?
So, Fidello's in love with the girl. He's grateful. What do you care?
That's what makes it good. That's the way it is with love and gratitude. The love goes on, Hellman, but the gratitude changes. Well, the way things stood, there was only one place that key could be. I got to a phone and called Jocko. I told him to check out on the boat for a key somewhere on the floorboards. Jocko seemed happy when he said that some girl had come by 15 minutes ago and nosed around the boat for a while. Well, Hellman and I rushed down to the bank. When we got downstairs, Freddie was just starting into the vault.
Hello, Patsy. You look rested.
If you're on your way to that deposit box, you better think it over.
Can he stop me, Copper?
No, but we can hold the door until we check with Fidello.
Go ahead.
I don't think he's going to like it.
Oh, we'll have to see. I'll be back in a moment.
Let's go, Novak. We can hold the door upstairs.
Well, let's hang around. I just want to see 18-karat greed when she opens that box. There's the gratitude, Hellman.
Well, Patsy, I got the key, huh?
Well, you got everything, Lisa.
How about Mike? What happened to him?
He beat you over the line by 20 minutes.
Oh. That's an act. Let me know.
I'll try again. Because you don't rate him nicely. You're not worth anything Fidello ever had.
It's part of argument. I couldn't finish him.
I was wrong about one thing, Lisa. When I said Fidello wouldn't like this. I think he will.
Yeah. Look at you.
guy. The way he told out, but the right inning. Fidello found out about the girl and Mike Trevor, so he pulled a switch. He hired his enemy, Joe Denine, to do the job. Denine planted the bomb in the safety deposit box, and just to prove it was a square pitch, Fidello gave Denine was supposed to kill the girl and leave the key for Mike to blow his head off. And just to make it clean, Fidello got in touch and told him to look up Denine if anything happened to the girl. That way, he figured to knock up all three of them. But Mike jumped the gun. He started tailing Denine and shot him up out on the bay. He followed him to my place and killed him with the gun Denine was carrying. Denine o'clock, but he called the girl and told her there was a lot of money in that safety deposit box. Sharply big. But the girl finally double-crossed Mike Trevor and turned him in. Trevor killed those two guys on the pier. He'd lost Denine in the fog. And when he drove up, a couple of jumpers along got scared. The question, what could that girl have said to Jocko to make him let her walk in and breeze out with that key? I mentioned that to Jocko, but he just smiled.
It brought you Pat Novak For Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is directed and produced by William B. Rousseau. Jocko Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and in our cast were Vaughn Fady, Paul Avery, Harley Bear, and Herb Ellis. This program is being released to our worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is George Fenneman inviting you to be with us again next week, when over most of these same ABC stations will bring you Pat Novak For Hire. This program came to you from Hollywood. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company. Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to burglary detail. A wave of shoplifting breaks out in your city. There's no pattern to the thief's operations. There are no leads. Weeks pass. The number of thefts keep growing. Your job? Stop them.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Confirmed by smokers coast to coast.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Confirmed by latest Fatima sales reports. Yes, Fatima quality. The finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended to make Fatima extra mild, to give you a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima. See for yourself why thousands and thousands of king-size cigarette smokers are switching to Fatima every day.
Enjoy all the advantages of extra length plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, Fatimas cost the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, August 22nd. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of burglary detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Wisdom. My name's Friday. It was 2:18 p.m. when we got to Anthony's Store for Women, the general manager's office.
Mr. Addy, come right in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Romero, sir. I talked to you on the phone. This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How do you do, Elliot? How are you? Certainly glad to see him. Let me get another chair here. Thank you very much. I haven't had time for my after-lunch cigarette yet. Care to join me? No, thank you, sir. I got a light for you. Oh, yeah, thanks. Well, I guess you know what the problem is. No need for me to go all the way back and start from the beginning.
I didn't get it quite clear on the phone, Mr. Elliott. When did this last thing come in?
Well, the way we figured out, it must have happened around closing time yesterday, between 5:30, we figured. The store was pretty crowded at that time, was it? Yeah, it's pretty busy. They had a special pre-winter showing in the fur department. No one noticed it was gone until after we'd closed up. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a description of the piece of merchandise, Mr. Elliott? Yes, yeah. You got it right here. Complete description, you see. Silver blue mink stole, satin lining, 2-slash pocket, silver chain fastener. Complete description of it for you. Yes, I see. Thank you. These are the code numbers and the serial numbers on it, then? That's right. The whole thing is getting way out of hand, Sergeant. We've had a lot of things lifted from the store the last few weeks, but nothing this big. If this keeps up, I don't see how we're going to get our insurance renewed.
I guess your store detectives are working on this latest one, the missing fur?
Yes, but it's the same as all the recent cases we've had. They haven't been able to find a thing. All the personnel have been checked. All the people who were around the department when the fur was stolen. I mean, those it was possible to check on. As far as we know, they're all clear. Uh-huh. What were the circumstances of this thing, Mr. Elliott? I mean, was this mink stole on a display rack? Did one of the models have it on? Exactly how was it? No, it was modeled, yes. Uh-huh. After it was shown to several parties, it was put back in stock. We have a special rack for the stoles, regular enclosed cabinets, sliding doors on it. Cabinets usually open during store hours. I see. There was a store detective in the department at the time. All those salespeople were standing around. I can't understand why one of them didn't see it happen.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Elliott, you say this is the first time an expensive item like this has been lifted from the store?
That's right. Now, about the personnel, Mr. Elliott, you say there's been a check made on each one of them since this thing started? Yes, sir, that's correct. And there's no reason to be suspicious at all of any one of your people? Well, as a matter of fact, there is one, Sergeant. Sales girl. She was up in 5 in the Suite 16 shop. Then she was moved down to cosmetics on the street floor.
What is it that makes you suspicious for her?
Well, before I say anything, I want to make it perfectly clear to you. We've never had any real proof that there was something wrong there. Dorothy started with us 8 years ago. That's the girl's name, Dorothy Kirkman. Mm-hmm. She came to us right out of high school. She seemed to be doing all right, got along with the customers, dressed neatly, always on time. And all of a sudden, this shoplifting started. We didn't think there was any connection at first. Thought it was only coincidence.
How do you mean?
Well, just for instance, wait a minute. Get the file on that right here on the desk. I see. Yeah. Here it is. Out of the first 14 items that disappeared, 6 of them were out of Dorothy Kirkman's department, right out of her section. Cashmere sweaters, expensive blouses, scarves. As I say, at first we wrote it off through coincidence, but it kept recurring. Her section almost seemed to be the focal point of all the shoplifting. That was at the beginning, of course. Did you have the Kirkman girl watched, Mr. Elliott? Yes, we did. The department head kept an eye on her, and, well, I guess Dorothy noticed it. She resented it quite a bit, had a little spat with the head of the department. We thought it'd be best for everyone if she transferred. So we had her move downstairs to cosmetics.
Mm-hmm. How did that arrangement work out?
Well, for the first few weeks, fine. And we started missing things out of cosmetics. A lot of it didn't amount to too much. A lot of it did. Makeup kits, expensive perfumes. This time we called her in, tried to talk to her about it in a nice way. She got very resentful. Mm-hmm. She denied knowing anything about it, say? Yeah, she got very upset. Of course, there is one thing I will say. The items in cosmetics are on display all over the counter. It's fairly easy for anybody to pick them up. The fact still remains the stealing began in her department upstairs. She moves over to cosmetics, and all of a sudden the losses increase there. What would you figure?
Yes, sir, I see what you mean.
Wonder if you could have somebody point out this Dorothy Kirkman for us, Mr. Elliott. I think maybe we better have a talk with her. You'd like to help you, Sergeant. I'm afraid that's not possible. Oh? How do you mean? She quit last Saturday. We got all the information available on Dorothy Kirkman from the store's personnel files, and then we called the office and gave them a description of the stolen fur. We asked them to check the Kirkman girl through R&I. She had no previous criminal record. Before we left the store, we went to the fur department, talked to all the salespeople concerned,
but we were unable to come up with anything new regarding the theft of the silver blue mink stole. We drove out to Dorothy Kirkman's last known address. She wasn't at home, but her mother was. The mother told us that the day before, her daughter had started on a new job as a salesgirl at the House of Raymond, an exclusive shop specializing in all types of cosmetics. We checked the phone book and found that the House of Raymond was located in the same 10-block stretch along Wilshire Boulevard where the shoplifting campaign was going on. It was one of the few places along there that the thieves hadn't bothered. It was 3 blocks from Anthony's store for women, the Kirkman girl's former place of employment. 4:05 p.m. We located her behind one of the front counters. Across the aisle, half a dozen women were listening to a makeup demonstrator giving a talk on complexion care. Dorothy Kirkman seemed pleasant and cooperative.
No, I don't mind telling you. I got sick and tired of being called a thief. That's why I quit Anthony's. Well, that goes a long way.
You started work here at Raymond's yesterday, Miss Curtin, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I think I'm going to like it a lot better than Anthony's.
Mm-hmm. While you were working here at Anthony's, ma'am, I suppose you'd heard that quite a bit of shoplifting was going on.
Yes, I knew about it. Guess every girl in the store knew it. They had a big personnel meeting about it.
Do you have any suspicions of your own, Miss Kirkman?
How do you mean that?
Well, I mean, was there anyone in particular that you might have been a little suspicious of? Maybe one of the customers?
No. I've waited on some real weird ones, but I didn't see any of them ever try to walk out with anything.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was what Mr. Elliott told us at that meeting.
Well, this might be an embarrassing question for you, miss, and we'd appreciate an honest answer.
Yes?
What about the sales girls you worked with? Did any of them ever give you cause to be suspicious?
You mean, do I think any of them were doing the stealing? No. There were some of them I didn't like. I didn't trust them either. But I wouldn't accuse them of stealing. I wouldn't accuse anybody unless I had proof. That's more than I can say for some people I know.
Well, by any chance, did you happen to be in Anthony's this past Monday?
Monday? No, why do you ask?
When you were working on the 5th floor up the street at Anthony's, we understand that when the merchandise first started disappearing, a pretty good percentage of it was out of your section.
That's what they told me, yes.
And then when you were transferred downstairs to the cosmetics counter, quite a few things started disappearing from there. Now, we'd like an honest answer, Miss Kirkman. Do you have any explanation at all for this?
I'll tell you the same thing I told him at the store, Sergeant. I can't explain it. But I didn't have anything to do with it, believe me.
Well, you'll have to admit, miss, it's pretty much of a coincidence, isn't it?
Sergeant, you can call it anything you want to. I didn't have anything to do with it. The only thing I ever took home from that store was my paycheck. Would you excuse me, please? Customer, I have to wait on.
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
What do you think?
I don't know. She's a nice enough girl. Seems to be telling the truth. Could be a coincidence the way it worked out.
Nothing to prove otherwise.
4:38 p.m. We finished questioning the suspect, Dorothy Kirkman, and Ben and I went back to the office and made arrangements to have the girl kept under temporary surveillance. A bulletin had been gotten out on the missing fur stole. The pawn shop detail had been notified, and a description of the fur had been placed on the stolen property list. The following day, along with Sergeants Dick Rubles and Jim Tabor, we continued our investigation of the latest shoplifting complaints. It went slow, a lot of legwork, and no progress. Like the dozens of other items of merchandise which had vanished in the last 8 weeks, there wasn't a trace of the missing fur stole. More men were added to the special detail on duty in the 10-block area where the stealing was going on. Anybody in the city who'd ever served time for shoplifting was checked and rechecked. Constant surveillance was maintained over a half a dozen known thieves who we figured might be involved. It got us nothing. Wednesday, August 23rd, 5:30 p.m. No leads, no progress. We went back to the office.
Sure hope I get home before 6 o'clock tonight. I want to see that shoe repair man out in our neighborhood.
What's the matter? You need some half-soles?
No. I went in their shop the other day and he conned me into a new set of arch supports. Matter of fact, he didn't even call them arch supports.
What did he say they were?
Metatarsal supports. You know, supports the metatarsal?
Yeah.
That's one of the bones in the foot. He sold me a pair of these things and told me I should wear only one of them in my right shoe.
Yeah, what's the matter with that? Isn't it working out?
Miserable. Feel like I've been walking around with one foot in a bucket. I'll check the bill.
Okay. Anything?
Yeah, sure is, from Rubles.
What do you got?
That mink fur. It's been found.
2 hours before, at approximately 3:30 p.m. in the main depot of the Santa Fe bus lines, a 38-year-old housewife, or Mrs. Harriet Briggs, noticed an unclaimed parcel lying on one of the benches in the depot waiting room. When When it became apparent to Mrs. Briggs that the parcel was either lost or forgotten, she picked it up and took it to the clerk in charge of lost and found articles. In checking the package for some kind of identification, they discovered the silver blue mink stole inside. The car was dispatched to pick up the fur, and it was identified as the garment taken from Anthony's fur salon. Mrs. Briggs volunteered to come along to the office to give what information she could. A stakeout was placed at the bus depot in case anybody called for the package. 5:50 p.m. We interviewed Mrs. Briggs in the squad room.
That's right, officer. It was just a little before 3:30. I was in the bus depot there waiting for my husband. That's when I first noticed this package lying on the bench just across from me.
I see. What'd you go on, Prisoner's Briggs?
I didn't think anything of it at first. I went on reading the afternoon paper, but no one came for the package. It was just lying there. It was there a long time.
Well, how long would you say, ma'am? I mean, before you picked it up and took it to the lost and found clerk?
Oh, I'd say 20 minutes, half an hour. That much at least. I left it with the young man at the counter there, and I told him I'd be back to see if anyone claimed it. Well, when I did get back, that's after I had dinner with my husband, Carl, we found out what was in the package. It's certainly strange. Don't you think, officer?
Yes, ma'am. Did you happen to notice at all who it was that left the package there?
Well, I'm not really sure, officer, but I think I know who it was. A tall woman. She had a brown jacket, if I remember rightly. I think you'd say she was in her early 30s.
Have you ever seen this woman before, Miss Briggs?
No, I never did. Very attractive, as I recall. She wore glasses.
Anything else about her you might have noticed?
Let me think. She had blonde hair. I remember that much. The reason I do remember it is because she wore it like I used to when I was a girl, you know, sort of back in a bun like this.
And you're pretty sure that this woman you described is the one who left the package there?
Mm-hmm. If I remember rightly, she's the only one that sat across from me. Guess it must be her. If it wasn't her, I don't know who else it could have been.
All right, Miss Briggs, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
That beautiful fur. I know that woman must be just sick about losing it. Certainly hope you find her, officer.
Yes, ma'am, so do we. We had the stats office make a run for us, and all females with shoplifting records who fitted the description of the woman who'd left the mink stole in the waiting room at the bus depot. The following morning, we checked with the men on stakeout at the depot. They told us nobody had come back to report losing such a parcel. Together with Rubles and Tabor, we spent most of the day checking out the names on the list of known shoplifters which the stats office had made up for us, names of possible suspects who physically resembled the tall blonde woman seen at the depot. We got nowhere. Either they had ironclad alibis or they had since moved out of the city. We ran down every possible angle on the freak recovery of the missing fur stole. During the next 10 days, the case got more involved than it already was. Some of the stolen articles of new merchandise began showing up, but not through any of the channels we expected. Some of the items were found dumped in sidewalk refuse cans. Some were found in hotel lobbies, in the post office, in theaters. Some were found tossed in vacant lots. The only logical answer we could figure was that it was the work of somebody who was stealing for just the love of stealing, a kleptomaniac. Tuesday, September 4th, a 15-year-old girl in one of the exclusive residential neighborhoods reported finding 2 parcels containing women's clothing and expensive costume jewelry. They still had the price tags on them, and they totaled $360. Ben and I drove out to talk to the girl, a Patricia Denvers.
Where'd you happen to find these things, Patricia?
Empty lot right down the block there. I was on my way home from the show. I took the things home and showed my mother. She called the police. If nobody claims this package with the costume jewelry, can I keep it? Certainly beautiful.
No, I'm afraid not, miss. We know who the things belong to. We're going to have to return them.
Oh, I certainly don't understand that.
Well, how do you mean?
Well, as far as I could see, she threw the things away. I thought she didn't want them.
What do you mean? Who didn't want them?
Well, the lady who threw them in the empty lot.
You saw who it was that threw the packages in that lot, did you?
Yes, I was on my way home from the show, just like I told you. I could see this lady walking up ahead of me. She was about a block away, I guess. When she went by the lot, I saw her take these packages from under her arm and toss them in the grass. She wouldn't do that if she wanted them, would she?
Did you get a good look at this woman? You have any idea what she looks like?
She's a good-looking woman. Tall. She has beautiful blonde hair. Her husband's a doctor.
And you know who she is? You've seen her before?
Well, I don't know her to talk to. I just see her around the neighborhood.
Does she live around here? Do you know that?
Yeah, right next door to my girlfriend.
listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. If you smoke king-size cigarettes, listen to Fatima's amazing new offer.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy their extra mildness and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you don't like Fatima's better than the king-size cigarette you are now smoking, return the pack with the unused Fatimas, and we'll give you your money back plus postage.
We make this amazing offer because we believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes.
Smokers all over the country are confirming this every day.
Here is the latest state-by-state report.
State 1, Fatima sales up 69%. 2, sales up 118%. 3, sales up 92%. 4, sales up 142%. And those are just a few.
Remember, if you're not convinced Fatima is better than your present king-size cigarette, just return the pack with the unsmoked Fatimas before December 1st and get your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1. Buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Tuesday, September 4th, 5:15 p.m. With the help of the 15-year-old girl, Patricia Denvers, we got the name and address of the woman who had been seen tossing the parcels of stolen merchandise into a vacant lot in the west end of the city. The woman was identified as a Mrs. Virginia Sterling, the wife of a Dr. Bruce Sterling, a fairly prominent young surgeon with offices in Beverly Hills. Mrs. Sterling and her husband had no children. They leased a richly furnished apartment in a residential section of the city that was considered better than the upper middle class. We checked Virginia Sterling through R&I, but she had no previous criminal record that we knew of. Together with Sergeants Rubles and Tabor, we covered the various stores along Wilshire Boulevard that had been victimized in the recent shoplifting campaign. We found that Mrs. Sterling had charge accounts at almost every one of the stores. Generally speaking, we found her accounts in very good standing, and among the store people she was regarded as what is referred to as a fine customer, a good spender, and a good credit risk. Right down to the Retail Credit Association, there was nothing but favorable reports on the woman. 7:15 p.m., Ben and I had a hamburger and some chili and a cup of coffee for dinner, and then we drove out to the apartment of Dr. Sterling and his wife. Mrs. Sterling answered the door and invited us in. We identified ourselves. She told us the doctor was out on a call. She showed us into the living room. Modern furniture, indirect lighting, expensive rugs.
Won't you sit down, gentlemen?
Thank you very much.
Should I get you a drink? I was just having my coffee and brandy.
No, thank you, Miss Dennis.
I really don't know when the doctor will be back. He was called over to the hospital. Is there anything I could help you with?
Well, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Sterling, we came out to talk to you, not your husband.
Oh, really? What is it you wanted to talk to me about, Sergeant Romero?
Well, ma'am, we understand that you do quite a bit of your shopping along Wilshire Boulevard. Is that right?
Well, yes, I shop downtown quite often. Except the problem of parking. I find it a lot more convenient. Why do you ask?
Miss Sterling, do you do much of your shopping at Anthony's? I believe that's out in the Wilshire district.
Yes, I do. For my sports clothes, especially. They have a very good selection.
Mm-hmm. Would you remember if you were in Anthony's on the 22nd of last month? I believe that was a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. No, I don't think I could remember one way or the other. I really don't have any special day for shopping. I just go when I feel like it or when I need something.
Have you ever been in the first line at Anthony's, ma'am? Have you ever made any purchases there?
I suppose I've been in almost every department at Anthony's at one time or another. I can tell you, though, I've never bought any furs there. As I told you, the main reason I go there at all is because of their sportswear. Could you tell me what this is about, please?
Routine investigation, ma'am. I wonder if you could tell us this. Do you have any occasion to travel in the area of the Santa Fe bus depot?
By bus? No. I don't think I've been on a bus since I've been married, and that'll be 6 years this coming December.
You've never been in the Santa Fe bus depot downtown, then?
No. I think I know where it is. I've driven past it. I've never been inside, though. Why should you want to know that?
Well, Miss Sterling, we're going to be honest with you. This has to do with an investigation we're on. Now, we've had a couple of reports that you were seen at the Santa Fe bus depot on August 23rd. That was on a Wednesday. Reports came from pretty reliable people.
Well, I certainly consider myself reliable, and I say I've never been there. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like some kind of explanation for this questioning.
You mean you have no idea why we drove out here to talk to you?
Well, of course not. Number one, I don't understand your questions at all. Number two, I'd like to know what they have to do with me.
What has this to do with you, ma'am? Last August 23rd, a woman in a brown sports jacket answering your description left a package in the Santa Fe bus depot. Well, this package contained a mink stole taken from Anthony. The woman who left the package in the depot fits your description perfectly.
That's all? It's a coincidence.
Yes, ma'am, maybe. I suppose you've read in the papers about the big increase in shoplifting. Most of it's taking place right in the area where you say you do most of your buying. Well, we've checked out every single one of the cases, Ms. Sterling. Took us a long time. We found a dozen salespeople in those stores. Every one of them tells us that you were around the particular store when the shoplifting took place. Law of averages, Ms. Sterling. You show up too often in the reports.
Would you please leave my house? Both of you, please.
I'm sorry, Miss Sterling, but you'd have to come along with us.
What do you mean by that? Don't you know you can get in trouble making false accusations? I'm going to call my husband right now.
Yes, ma'am. If you like, go right ahead.
Sergeant.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? What do you want to know? You can tell me.
I think you know already.
What do you want? Tell me, please.
We've got your story, ma'am. Right up to this afternoon. You went shopping today. You stole things as usual. When you tried to get rid of them, you were seen right in this neighborhood. The vacant lot down in the next corner, you threw them away there. Somebody saw you.
They didn't know it was me.
Yes, ma'am. They knew it was you.
Yes. How can I make them understand? Do you know?
No, ma'am.
Horrible. Shame. I couldn't tell my husband. I couldn't tell Bruce. I couldn't.
Well, never mind. We'll tell him for you. 9:35 p.m. We got in the car and drove Mrs. Sterling downtown to the city hall. We took her to the interrogation room, called a police stenographer, and we began to take her complete statement. One of the first things she did was to admit full responsibility for the series of shopliftings which had been going on for over 2 months. She told us that her kleptomania, the urge to steal things, had started with her as far back as her junior high school years. She admitted as a girl she stole books, tablets, pencils, pieces of chalk. And as she grew older, it seemed to get more serious with her. It carried over into her college years. And that's when her stealing first got her into trouble.
It's when I joined the sorority. It was just like high school. I was all alone. We had a lot of clever girls in our house. Some of them were smart, some of them were pretty. All of them seemed to be doing something except me. I had to prove it to them. I guess I had to prove it to myself. I was smart, too.
You figured that taking things was the best way to prove that.
Yes, I suppose so. Of course, it wasn't easy, you know. The awful part was I got caught one day. It was kind of a relief in a way. I mean, how could they know I was just as smart as they were? They didn't find out what I was doing.
Did you stay on at college after that, Miss Sterling?
Oh, no, I couldn't after that. They voted me out of the sorority. There wasn't anything to do but leave, so I left.
Uh-huh. What happened after that?
I went to New York and stayed with an aunt I had there. Got a job. Had several jobs. The same thing came up again. I lost 2 of the jobs. Same thing over again. I just couldn't help it. Always means so much to me. Taking things, not being caught, getting away. Getting away. Things I took, they never meant anything to me. Nothing. Just taking them, not having anyone knowing. That's all that was important. It made up for that feeling, being all alone.
Yes, ma'am. And this thing went on, even after you were married?
No, not at first. I guess maybe a year or 2. We were very happy, Bruce and I. And then he got busy. Came out here and began to build his practice. I didn't see as much of him. We both wanted children. We wanted them very much. There weren't any. Bruce began to spend more time away from home. Just like before. Same thing. I wasn't important. I was all alone again. Wasn't anybody. You know what I mean, don't you, cousin?
Yes, ma'am.
There ought to be an answer someplace. There isn't anything worse than being alone. Is there?
I get it. Interrogation room Friday. Yeah, Dick. Mm-hmm. He is on his way now? Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Sterling just called. Said he was on his way in. He ought to be here in a couple of minutes.
I don't want to see Bruce. He's so good. I wouldn't know how to tell him.
No worry, ma'am. He'll be all right.
No. I'm alone. He's alone. It'll never be all right anymore.
Well, he's on his way in now, and he wants to see you.
What can I tell him? What's it going to be like? What's going to happen after this?
I don't know, ma'am, but you won't be alone anymore.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 9th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here's our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, a few minutes ago, we told you exactly why smokers all over the country are switching to king-size Fatimas. It's because Fatimas are extra mild, because they have a much better flavor and aroma. Now, if you haven't tried Fatimas yet, here's where you come in. We feel so sure that you'll enjoy Fatima quality that we make this offer. Buy a pack of Fatimas. If you don't like Fatimas better than the king-size cigarette you've been smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked cigarettes and we'll send you your money back, plus postage. You see, we're convinced that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. Buy a pack of Fatimas today. I know you'll agree.
Mrs. Virginia Sterling was tried and convicted on several counts of grand theft and received a sentence as prescribed by law, the terms to run concurrently. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1 or more than 10 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. The story you're about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to burglary detail. A dozen churches in your city are victimized by a team of experienced safe burglars. You track the suspects for weeks. You finally apprehend 3 men. Your job? Convict them.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Sunday, March 5th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of burglary detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Wisdom. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the record bureau, and it was 11:30 p.m. when I got to room 25A, the interrogation room. Excuse me, Ben?
Yeah, Joe?
Got a minute?
Yeah, sure. Wait here, Bryson. Back in a minute. All right.
Yeah? Let's go out in the hall. Huh? How you doing with Bryson? Did he tell you anything?
No, he won't admit a thing. How about the other 2 men?
No, nothing. They're sitting tight, waiting for their lawyer to show up. Had all 3 of them checked through R&I. Bryson's a 2-time loser, burglary, GTA. His 2 partners served time for robbery.
We shouldn't have too much trouble putting them away. We got a good enough collection of physical evidence.
Well, maybe.
Heard from the crime lab yet?
No, not yet. I'd feel a lot better about it if we'd get Bryson to cop out.
Let's call him again, huh?
Yeah, might as well. Nothing to lose. Go ahead.
Keep your seat, Bryson. Got a few more questions for you.
Excuse me. I thought you had it all squared away by now. I thought you were going to say I could leave by now.
No, afraid not, Bryson. You haven't even given us a story yet.
Well, I told you I didn't have anything to do with it. It seems pretty obvious I did, and I thought you'd take my word for it.
So you think of any reason why we should? You lied to us once already, didn't you?
I didn't lie to you. I told you the truth. I didn't break into that church. I didn't have anything to do with it.
On the way in here, we asked you if you'd ever been arrested before, and you told us no. Our record bureau says you're a two-time loser.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that, Sergeant. I really am. When you picked me up, I guess I got a little nervous. I didn't mean to lie to you. I was just a little mixed up, I guess.
You had a little time to settle down. You ought to be able to tell us your story now. Just relax and take your time, huh?
Martin? Well, what did the other two fellows tell you, Miller and Henderson?
Well, what difference did that make to you?
Well, it might make a lot of difference, Sergeant.
You just tell us your story. That's all we ask. What were you doing at the scene of the burglary? What business did you have there? If you weren't mixed up in it, you got nothing to hide.
I haven't got anything to hide. I just don't want to involve a lot of innocent people, that's all.
Anything you tell us is going to help you. You know that. Now, how about it?
All right, Sergeant. Strictly confidential. Huh? Well, one of those other fellows you picked up tonight, the dark-haired fella, his name's Miller. Tony Miller. He's engaged to marry my sister.
Yeah, well, I got to do that.
Now, please, give me a chance.
All right.
I'd like to lay it all out for you. Well, ever since my sister got engaged to Miller, I've been worried about it. I never liked him to begin with. Lately, I've been keeping an eye on Miller, him and that friend of his, Henderson.
Yeah?
I knew they were up to something, and then I read in the paper about that string of church burglaries, that guys breaking into churches, nothing at the safe.
Yeah.
Well, I had an idea it was Miller and his friend.
How do you mean, Barton? What made you think it was him?
I had an idea, that's all. I couldn't prove anything. It was just a hunch.
You must have had some reason to suspect him.
Nothing definite, no. I just knew something was wrong, that they were up to something. Well, then, early tonight, I saw a friend of Tony Miller at one of the bars in the neighborhood. I talked to him a while, and he finally told me that Miller and Henderson were out working a deal. Said they were going to break into a church over on 8th Street and knock over the safe.
Well, how come this friend of Miller's let you in on it?
Well, I guess he thought I was a pretty close friend of Tony's. He knew Tony was going to marry my sister. Anyway, when I found out about it, I got over to that church as fast as I could. I wanted to find Miller and Henderson and try and talk them out of it. I didn't want any guy who was going to marry my sister getting into trouble like that. You know, maybe going to jail for burglary.
No, Miller's been in jail before. I suppose you knew that.
Yeah, I knew it, but that was before he was engaged to my sister.
You met Miller and Henderson outside the church, did you?
No, I was too late. They'd already broken into the place. So I went around the back of the church, and I saw one of the stained glass windows was broken where they'd gotten in. I climbed up on the sill there, and I could see them working inside. It was some kind of a small back room. They were working on the safe, both of them, Miller and Henderson.
That's so. What'd you do then?
Well, I tried to talk them out of it. They wouldn't listen.
Mm-hmm. I suppose you can prove your story. I mean, that friend you met in the bar, the one who tipped you off about the burglary, I guess he'd be willing to back up your story.
Well, I'm not sure, Sergeant. He might lie. He might not want to get involved.
How about Miller and Henderson? They'll back it up, won't they? If you weren't involved in the deal, there wouldn't be any reason for them to implicate you, would there?
But Tony Miller thinks it's my fault he's in jail. He hates me. You can't take his word for anything. Probably the first thing he'd do is lie about it, and Henderson, too.
Well, who you got to corroborate your story?
Well, maybe nobody, but it's the truth. I swear to you it's the truth. I'll tell the same thing in court if I have to. They got to believe me.
You're asking a lot, Matthew.
But that's the way it happened, so help me.
Yeah.
Now, tell me the truth, Sergeant. You know I didn't have a hand in it. If it goes to court, they couldn't convict me, could they? Come on, what do you think?
I think you're a liar. To the working detective, the one logical way to appraise a known criminal is by his record. You estimate him the same way you check a particular make-up automobile, a racehorse, or a radio set, by past performance. By refusing to buy his trumped-up story, we didn't figure that we were doing the suspect, Charles Bryson, an injustice. Bryson was 37 years old. He'd spent 13 of those 37 years in prison, either the county jail or the state penitentiary. His criminal record dated back to the time he was 20 years old. Besides serving numerous shorter terms for lesser offenses in the county jail, Bryson had spent 2 terms in the state penitentiary for burglary. Despite the efforts of the probation officers, the adult authority, and the rehabilitation officials to help him, he seemed content to go along in his criminal career. In this particular case, the series of church burglaries, we had good reason to believe that Bryson and his 2 accomplices, Miller and Henderson, were the guilty men. All 3 of them were booked at the main jail on suspicion of 459 PC. The next morning, Ben and I checked in at the crime lab. Lee Jones, you around?
Yeah, I'm here. Come on back.
Oh, how about that? They gave the place a new coat of paint.
Yeah, sure needed it.
Good morning, fellas.
How you doing, Lee?
That set of burglary tools those thieves were using in that church last night. Just finished checking them over. Might have 2 or 3 things for you.
What do you got, Lee?
Have a look over here. You fine set of tools. I take it the thieves had a lot of practice.
All 3 of them had records. How about some of the other physical evidence you got, Lee?
One thing at a time, Joe. First of all, these tools here. Small sledge, these 3 jimmy, pinch bar, and a screwdriver. I think we can tie them in with at least 6 of those church burglaries. I think we can do it for certain.
Good enough for 3 convictions?
I think so, if the jury's listening.
Well, how you got it worked out, Lee? Tool markings?
That's part of it, yeah. I want you to take a look at this pinch bar here. They did a lot of their work with this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't have to tell you there aren't two identical pinch bars in the world that could leave the same exact markings on a piece of woodwork or on a safe.
Yeah.
There aren't a pair of tools in the world that leave the same markings on anything.
Yeah, we know, but can you show a jury positively that the thieves used this pinch bar here on 6 of the jobs they pulled?
That's the idea. I compared specimen markings of every one of these tools against the markings made at the point of entry on 6 of the churches these thieves broke into. In every case, the markings match perfectly. These are the tools that made them, no doubt about it. The screwdriver, the set of windows, and the pinch bar.
Yeah, it sure won't hurt our case, any. Anything else, Lee?
I examined the end of the pinch bar under the microscope, checked the screwdriver and Jimmy's too. The tips of each one of them are contaminated with particles of paint, different kinds of paint.
Mm-hmm.
I've already compared these paint transfers with samples of paint taken from the exterior of those churches that were broken into. Each one of them, they match all the way. The color of the paint, the age, degree of oxidation, the lead content, compares perfect. Now come over here, something else.
Mm-hmm. What you got there, Lee?
These are the shoes the two men you found inside the church were wearing. These are the foot impressions the boys from Leighton Prince lifted off the floor in front of the safe inside the church.
Yeah, so.
The linoleum on that church floor showed up the dust impressions of the feet pretty good.
Did you make the prints?
The boys from Leighton Prince did, yeah. Good impressions. See here? General size of the shoe, the make, heel impressions, the wear pattern on the sole here, the whole general characteristics of both pair of shoes. Matches up to a T.
How much is that going to mean to a jury, Lee?
Well, it'll mean a lot. It's the truth. The same thing I've been telling you. It's the same thing. I'd like to tell every cop in the department, if you can place an object at the scene of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, then don't go thrashing around looking for an object that's an exact duplicate. Don't play hawk show. Any microscope will tell you there are no two things in this world exactly identically alike. I don't care if it's a pair of shoes, a gun, a crowbar, or your two front teeth. And that's what lines up for me. Think you're going to have trouble?
I don't know, Lee. We shouldn't have.
You got the two of them right at the scene of the crime. That ought to be enough for the court.
Yeah, I hope so.
You don't sound sure.
Well, Lee, there's only one time I'm sure about thieves like Bryson.
Yeah?
When they check him in at San Quentin. 2 days later, Charles Bryson and his two accomplices, Henderson and Miller, were arraigned in municipal court on a date set for their preliminary hearing. 4 days later, the preliminary hearing was held, and the three of them were bound over for arraignment in Superior Court. In the weeks that followed, before their arraignment and Superior Court trial, Ben and I worked along with the district attorney's office preparing the case against the three men, taking statements, running down additional evidence, checking and rechecking, piecing together the facts which we hoped would earn a conviction for each of the criminals. We weren't positive that had happened. The strongest part of our case was going to come out of the crime lab, the testimony of Lee Jones. And we knew as well as Lee did that, generally speaking, juries are not too much in sympathy with scientific fact when it has to do with physical evidence. Generally, they don't follow technical cases too well. We also knew that the three defendants had a good lawyer, a clever one. Getting convictions wasn't going to be easy. The trial opened in Superior Court June 2nd. Ben and I testified when we were called on. On the morning of June 9th, the jury retired to deliberate. Late that afternoon, we got a call from the Hall of Justice. Yes, Mitty. Yeah. Both of them, huh? I see, Well, that's life, I guess. That's right. Jury's back, Joe. They came up with a verdict.
What's the story?
Henderson and Miller, they found them both guilty of first-degree burglary.
Yeah? What about Bryson?
They let him go.
Well, maybe it was no great shock to us, but after the time and effort we put in on the case, it was a disappointment. The worst of the three criminals had been set free. At the trial, Bryson had taken the stand and told the court the same cock and bull story he told Ben and I, that he'd gone to the church, the scene of the burglary, to plead with Henderson and Miller not to commit the crime. Bryson had a good personality and a fast line of talk. It wasn't hard to see how he could convince a jury that he was only an innocent bystander. The biggest obstacle that stood in the way of convicting Bryson was that the prosecution, the district attorney, according to law, could not call to the attention of the jury Bryson's previous criminal record, especially his two prior convictions for burglary. To them, because of the limitations of the law, he was presented as a private citizen with as much integrity and as clean of any previous guilt as you or your neighbor. Henderson and Miller were committed to the state penitentiary to serve sentences as prescribed by law, and Charles Bryson, shortly after the trial, left the city. 2 months passed. Saturday, August 8th, I started on my vacation. 2 weeks later, on August 22nd, I checked back in for work.
Hi, Joe. Good to see you.
Hi, Jim. What's been doing?
Oh, not too much. How'd the vacation go?
Oh, pretty good, thanks. Mother and I went up north to visit some relatives up in Marin County. It was a nice trip for her. She hadn't been feeling too well, you know.
Oh, it's too bad. Get any fishing done?
A little, yeah.
That's sure beautiful country up there.
You been around?
No, I took off today.
Been putting in some full days while you've been gone.
That's all. Anything special doing?
Oh, nothing too big. String of chain store burglaries, south end of town. I've been working along with Ben.
Yeah? Giving you much trouble?
It's been going a couple of weeks. Not getting any better. I begin to feel the pressure a little.
Well, how's it stand? Any leads on the suspect?
Just one.
Yeah?
A guy by the name of Charles Bryson.
When our suspect, Charles Bryson, left Los Angeles after his trial some 3 months before, we had reports that he was headed east for the city of Memphis, Tennessee. In subsequent weeks, we had word that he was also seen in St. Louis, Missouri, where police officers had him under surveillance as a possible suspect in a robbery there. On or about August 10th, the St. Louis police lost track of Bryson. A week later, the newest series of burglaries began throughout Los Angeles. The thief's M.O. matched that of Bryson down to the last detail. The places burglarized were chain stores, supermarkets generally. The method of entry was the same, prying open a back window with a pinch bar or similar tool. The manner in which the safes were opened in the various business places, that matched too. So did 5 sets of foot impressions found at the scene of 5 different burglaries, each of them made by a man wearing tennis shoes. The operation corresponded exactly to the way Bryson worked. But there was one big hitch in the investigation. Nobody could be sure Bryson was back in town. No one had seen him. No one had heard from him. Monday, August 24th, 8 a.m.
Got us running in circles so far, Joe. I can't figure. I bet lunch money is Bryson, but we can't even start to prove it.
Well, how about the people in town Bryson runs with? They all been checked out?
The one we know about, yeah. His friends, relatives, all his known hangouts. We've been over it every inch of the way. If anybody knows, they're not saying. There's no trace of them.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe we're wrong. Go ahead.
What do you mean maybe we're wrong?
Well, the only lead we've got is the M.O. Bryson isn't the only thief who operates that way. It could be another man using the same system.
Yeah, we thought about that.
You ran a check through the stats office?
Yeah, The only known burglars in our records who operate like Bryson are either in jail or out of town or they're dead. We checked it through a couple of times. Keeps coming out the same way. Bryson's the only strong lead we got.
Yeah, but I got it. Burglary Friday. Yes, sir. You know, sir, Sergeant Tabor's out right now. Is there any message? Well, I guess about 10 minutes. Yes, sir, right. I'll tell him. Thank you. You're sure that the M.O. on all these jobs matches Bryson, huh?
All the way. That's what's got me stumped. If the guy is pulling these jobs and he is in town, somebody should have spotted him. These chain stores he's hitting. We've had stakeouts on him for 10 days. I've got every informant we know watching for Bryson, and not a sign.
Hopefully a minute ago, Jim said they'd call back. Oh, thanks. Get this teletype this morning. I've got nothing from San Quentin. Might be a line on Bryson.
Let me see.
An answer on that mail watch we asked him for. What angle's this, Ben?
You remember church burglaries, Miller and Henderson, 2 Lieutenant San Quentin?
Oh, yeah. You asked Clinton for a mail watch on both of them, did you?
Yeah, I figured there was a chance Bryson might write to him. Looks like it got us a lead.
Well, what have they got there?
Well, it's from the warden's office, and so it says, regarding your request on information concerning Charles Bryson, on August 22nd, Anthony Miller, our number 172156J, received letter from person signing himself George Cameron. Contents of letter suspicious.
Cameron. Does that mean anything to you? I just checked Bryson's package again down to R&I. Cameron was his mother's maiden name. Bryson's used it as an alias before, quite a few times. How about the return address on the letter, Ben? Los Angeles?
Main post office, general delivery.
Monday, 10 a.m. We alerted the post office detail and arranged for a mail watch on all incoming letters through general delivery addressed to Charles Bryson, George Cameron, or to another of the suspect's known aliases. A week passed. No sign of Bryson, no trace of any of his correspondence through general delivery. Another week went by. 2 more chain store burglaries. The M.O. in each case was the same. It matched closely to Bryson's known working habits. But despite our precautions and the close check we maintained on his friends and his known hangouts, the suspect still remained unseen and unheard from. On September 9th, an informant of Ben's called us at the office and told us he thought he'd seen Bryson the night before.
Yeah, Matty, where was that? Yeah, right, we'll check it, thank you. Bye. Bryson's supposed to have been seen there from Martin Beverly Boulevard last night, drinking in a bar up there.
You pretty sure it was Bryson?
He thinks so, yeah. Got the name of the place here. We can check with the bartender, see if he can identify Bryson's mugshot.
Right. I'll get my top coat, huh?
All right.
I get it. Burglary Friday. Yes, sir. When was that? Yeah, go ahead. I got it. Yes, sir, right away. Post office detail. Bryson called for mail for general delivery half an hour ago.
Where is he? They following?
280 Glenmore, apartment 6. He's there now.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
September 9th, Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. The burglary suspect, Charles Bryson, was placed under surveillance at the apartment where he'd gone immediately after calling for his mail at the general delivery window in the main post office. 3 teams of men were assigned the job of following Bryson alternately, 24 hours a day. We waited for a chance to get into his apartment and search it while it was empty, but it never occurred. Somebody was always there, either Bryson or a tall, dark-haired woman, his common-law wife. During the week that followed, the suspect was watched everywhere he went. He attempted no burglaries. On the 8th day, the stakeout was removed. 3 nights later, 2 burglaries were committed. Both jobs bore the marks of the suspect's M.O., but we couldn't prove a thing against him. We knew the setup we had was going nowhere. If we wanted to get Bryson red-handed, if we wanted a case against him that'd stand up in any court, we had to find a new approach. Lee Jones came up with an idea.
There's a jar of stuff right here. The technical name for it's anthracene. I guess you heard of it?
I think I've heard you mention the name, Lee. That's about all.
Some kind of luminous powder, isn't it? It glows in the dark.
No, not exactly. Here, take a look at some. There, you see? Colorless, odorless, no smell at all to it. It's a coal-tar product. We call it crystalline hydrocarbon.
I see.
Now, here's the point of the thing. When you take this anthracene powder and rub it into the surface of an object, it's completely invisible to the naked eye. You never know it's there. Here, let me show you.
How about my coat sleeves?
That'll do. Got the powder all over it. Some in your hand, too. Rub it in, like so. Now, can you see or feel any of the powder where I put it on?
No, nothing there.
Now, let me switch on this lamp here. This is an ultraviolet light. Now, watch when I turn it on your arm, where we rubbed on the powder.
Well, look at your hand, Joe. Like it's lighting up.
Yeah, my coat sleeve, too. It's glowing. How about it? Will this stuff rub off, Lee?
Try it. You're spreading it all over yourself, everything you touch. Anything harmful in it, Lee?
No. Now, watch when I turn the lamp off. You see? Gone. Never even know you had it on. Only time it shows up is under ultraviolet light.
Well, does it stay on you indefinitely, Lee?
Well, no, the maximum is generally about, say, 24 hours.
You guarantee it'll work, huh?
Well, all physics, Joe. Under the proper conditions, it's got to. It's just what I tell my classes up at the academy. Crooks and chorus girls have one thing in common.
Yeah?
They show up better when you put them under the right kind of light.
When we left Lee Jones at the crime lab, we figured we had the potential solution in our hands, but there was still a lot to be done before we could go into any court of law with a case that we were positive was strong enough to convict Charles Bryson. Number 1, we had to get into his apartment when it was unoccupied, find the set of burglary tools he was using, and douse them thoroughly with anthracene. The same for the clothes he worked in. Number 2, we had to get Bryson into custody within 24 hours after he moved on a burglary job, or the anthracene wouldn't work. Number 3, we had to find the loot taken in the burglary in his possession. 10 days passed before we got a chance to make good on the first step.
I'll get it, Joe. Right. Burglar, Merrill. Yeah, Jim. Good. Fine, we'll be right out. Good break, Joe. And Bryson.
What's that?
They hold him in on a traffic warrant, speeding. Putting him into the main jail right now. Good chance to go through his apartment.
What about his wife? She's still up there, isn't she?
She's on her way to put up bail for him.
Yeah?
Apartment's empty.
By the time Bryson was bailed out, Ben and I, along with Jim Tabor and Lee Jones, had combed through Bryson's apartment and finally uncovered a set of burglary tools and work clothes carefully hidden beneath the floorboards under a kitchen cabinet directly below the sink. Lee Jones contaminated each of the tools with the invisible anthracene powder and also the work clothes. We checked the apartment for any possible loot taken in the burglaries, but we found nothing. We put everything back exactly the way we found it, and then we left and went back to the office. We stood by until 4 a.m. waiting for a call that would indicate that Bryson might be out on another burglary job. Nothing happened. The next night, up until 10 o'clock, it was the same routine. At a few minutes past 10, we got a 459 call on a chain drugstore out on Alvarado Street. Lee Jones had his portable ultraviolet light all ready to go. Ben and I picked him up at the crime lab, and the 3 of us drove to the scene of the burglary.
Straight back here, Lee. Can I help you with the light?
I can handle it, thanks.
There's the window they figured got in. Safe's there in the corner.
Yeah, there's not too much of it left. You all set, Lee?
You got the extension cord for the light, Romero?
Yeah, right here. I'm just plugging it in. Yeah, okay. All set.
All right, switch it on, will you?
Right.
Well?
Yep.
Seems like it.
What do you got in the window there, Joe? Look at that.
Anthracene tracks all over, foot impressions there, tool marks on the safe.
Blood prints on the floor, on the wall?
No question. He left plenty of trail.
All right, let's get him. Lee Jones put in a call to the crime lab and ordered a photographer out to take pictures at the scene of the burglary. Lee and the photographer would stay at the scene to gather physical evidence and take pictures of the after-scene prints and markings for presentation in court. 10:52 p.m. Jones packed up the ultraviolet lamp, and Ben and I took it along with us. We drove directly to Bryson's apartment. Nobody was there.
No, nobody in the bedroom either. How about that?
I don't know. I don't get it. Bryson's had plenty of time to get back here. Over an hour.
And what about his wife? The only time we know she left was when she had to go bail him out on that traffic warrant.
Doesn't look like they pulled out, does it? There's a closet full of clothes in there, a lot of their personal things around.
Yeah. Sure looks like they were expecting to come back. We might check with the apartment house manager. He could tell us if they gave notice to move. If... Oh, let's see here.
What do you got?
Note here on the desk. See, he says, Charlie, I'm sorry, but I told you it just doesn't work out with us. When you read this, I'll be on my way east. I don't want to be mean with you. I just think it'll work better if we forget each other, that's all. Thanks for everything so long. Signed, Ruth.
Guess she doesn't like him much either.
No. Wait a minute.
What are you doing?
Police officers, Bryson. I'd talk to you for a minute.
Oh, I know who you are. I remember. What do you want?
Ben, you want to plug in that light?
Yeah, the outlet right over here.
What is all this? You said you wanted to talk to me. What's it all about?
You all set, Ben?
Just a minute. All right, okay, turn it on.
What are you doing? Hey, what are you trying to do to me?
You've done it all to yourself, mister.
Lit up like a Christmas tree, Joe. It's all over him, head to foot.
The clothes, your hands. What is it? There's light glowing all over them. What are you doing?
It's a chemical, Bryson. Harmless. Same stuff you left all over the drugstore tonight. Pack up, Ben. Come on, let's go, Bryson.
I don't understand. What's this whole thing all about?
You'll understand it. Here. A note for you.
Oh.
All set, Joe.
Let's go, mister.
I guess I didn't know her. Just a tramp. I guess I should have been smart about it.
Yeah, I guess so. Come on.
How could I know? She said she was in love with me. I believed it. What am I going to say when they ask me? All our friends are all going to ask me. They'll say, what happened to Ruth? I'll say, what happened this time? What am I going to say happened this time?
What are you going to say to the jury this time?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 10th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 86, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Charles Lang Bryson was tried and convicted on 3 counts of first-degree burglary. This is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for not less than 5 years. However, due to his previous convictions on this and other felony counts, Bryson was judged an habitual criminal. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his natural life in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police